Your dad's movies on the history of the United States were my initiation into like the truth about American foreign policy and the history of America.
Well, that's what I grew up with.
Yeah, that's how I got into all this stuff. I mean, regardless of school, which I didn't pay attention to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was kind of my experience of talking. My conversations with him back in the '90s, because he loves history and. He would encourage me, and he'd have William Blum's book about the CIA and Black Ops, that kind of stuff, and I would read it. And we'd travel the world too. And we went to in 2000, we went to Serbia and Kosovo and saw the aftermath of the U.S. bombing, right, of Belgrade and the war there. And then in 2001 we went to Israel and the West Bank. My dad was trying to interview Arafat for a documentary he was doing called Persona non grata, and so I was with him and when he was interviewing Netanyahu and Perez and Barak, and we went and talked to some guys from Hamas. We interviewed Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigade guys. We were in Ramallah on the West Bank, and they had to literally put us in a black van, so we didn't know where we were, drive us into the city, go in blindfolded. The guys wore masks during the interview. We had so stuff like that, that was part of my education as a kid.
Wow, dude, what a crazy experience for you. What were you in your early 20s back then?
I was 16.
16 years old doing this shit with your dad.
It was 2002, sorry. That was right after 9/11, yeah.
Holy shit, dude. What a wild upbringing.
Yeah, yeah.
What a way to shape your view of the world so early in life.
It gave me a lot of perspective, and a lot of contrast when you travel. Because I grew up traveling, at 6 months, we were in Mexico doing Salvador. A year we were doing platoon in the Philippines. 2 years doing 2 years old doing Wall Street in New York. 3 was talk radio and Born on the 4th of July, which was Dallas, and back to Philippines. So 5, and then it's 5, 6 was the Doors, 7 was JFK. So it's I was being formed by a lot of political films, right? Yeah. And stories that were counter to the mainstream narrative. So I was, by the time I was 16 in high school, I was writing my thesis paper on and this was right after 9/11. I was writing my thesis paper on how our policy was actually fomenting Islamic terrorism.
Wow.
That was in senior, a senior in high school, not even in college.
God, bro.
How our foreign policy was overthrowing, it was overthrowing nationalists and promoting the Muslim Brotherhood type of groups, which is really what still was going on all the way to through ISIS and the overthrow of Gaddafi in Libya. I mean, it's always been that policy. It's been overthrow anyone that's a nationalist, that's pro-sovereignty and a strong leader. Nasser was one of the prime examples, and it's let's foment the Muslim Brotherhood against Nasser back in the 50s and 60s. And all of a sudden the Muslim Brotherhood becomes this terrorist network that, to this day, I would say it's still terroristic in its orientation. Mm-hmm. But it's, people think that this is some kind of Islamic thing. And it's it has Islamic elements, but Islam is a very vast religion. People don't even realize the biggest Islamic country in the world is, the most Muslims in the world are in India, and the biggest Islamic country in the world is Indonesia. So, there's not many terrorists coming out of the biggest country in the world. They're mostly peaceful people. It's but you get these groups that are oriented towards jihad, but a lot of them are operating under the auspices of U.S., British, Israeli intelligence, oftentimes working with Saudis, Pakistani intelligence, whatnot. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the Taliban and the pre-Taliban, the Mujahideen in the 80s when we were supporting them in Afghanistan back in the 80s. So it's when we were working with bin Laden. We foment the terrorists. Yeah. We allow them, we work with them, we then use them in Bosnia or in other countries where it suits us.
And we discard them when they're no longer valuable to us.
I don't know if we ever discard them.
Well, we discarded bin Laden, right? Allegedly. You think bin Laden's still alive?
I don't know who bin Laden is.
What do you mean you don't know who bin Laden is? Do
you remember with Oswald in the Kennedy assassination, there were multiple Oswalds. People spotted and had like seen different Oswalds. He was basically CIA, right? It was probably initially like naval intelligence because he came out of the Marines, or he was a Marine.
Yeah.
But he goes over to Russia. He defects to Russia. Goes to Russia, marries a Russian daughter of like a military man, like a general or something. Comes back to the U.S. You don't think he's working for intelligence the entire time, and if he's not working for intelligence, he's being monitored by intelligence the entire time. So before the assassination, and this is in the film, like the film JFK gets into it, it's like there are multiple spottings of Oswald, but it doesn't look the same as Oswald. It's like a second Oswald because the locations don't match up. They've got like a guy at the gun range who's like firing, like who's like shooting it, like, and he's like, I wish it was that sucker Kennedy, that kind of shit. He's like saying stuff to draw attention. So it gives you the indication that Oswald was like, they were already basically having like multiple Oswald sightings so that you can potentially use him as a patsy later. And with Bin Laden, I feel like, he was CIA at some point between the 80s and 90s. Some people saw him as Tim Osman. You ever heard that name?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, they basically like people like Michael Reconstructudo, who was like a fascinating guy working with Intel. He went to prison for a while, but he met Tim Osman. And he's like, yeah, that was Osama bin Laden, but his CIA name was Osman, and he was like over here at different points working with, training, or let's say working with our intel communities. So I don't know who bin Laden is. I don't know if it's like what was killed was just one of the dummies, or or just some guy that they said was bin Laden, but I think it's just an intelligence operation. I always
thought the story of him being dumped off the ship was very odd.
Yeah, let's kill the most like wanted guy in the world and dump his body so no one can actually identify it.
Yeah, all the answers I've been given to that question when I've asked it never seem to add up. Like, yeah, why are you questioning this? No one cares. Who cares? We had pictures. No one wanted to. We didn't want to provoke them anymore. We wanted to give them a proper burial or whatever.
Yeah, no, the whole thing reeks. And then like, even like the whole dipping of like, the end of the story is that now people are circulating that he was actually being protected by the Iranians before he went to Pakistan, and it's like it's one of those things where it's the boogeyman. Whatever the intel community wants to create a boogeyman, you need these type of things, like ISIS or whatnot, right? And some of those guys were in our prisons, for example, right? Weren't some of those guys in our prisons during the Iraq War? Then they get released and they pop up. And the main guy, I can't remember which one is the head of the ISIS. People were saying like, yeah, he was spotted with John McCain when McCain went over, right? And he was seen with this guy in photos, and then all of a sudden he becomes the head of ISIS. So again, it's like, I always put it like this: terrorism, just like gangs, just like drugs, is not like some like foreign thing. It's all under the nose of enforcement, law enforcement, police. It's like any neighborhood, right?
Right.
The police know who the gangsters are.
Right.
Same with the intel community, and when they want someone to operate, as in London, for example, they wrote a whole book, Londonistan. The British are letting all these Muslims come in. It's like they're running them. They're basically letting these clerics who are proselytizing for jihad and whatnot, they let them operate under their noses because that's how either they're on the payroll or they're being monitored because they want to foment radical Islam because, you need an enemy.
Because you need an enemy.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was like a report from Iron Mountain that people don't know to this day, like if it was a real report or not, but it's pretty interesting to read it. You can find it online. And one of the great quotes is that the unifying ethos? No, like the unifying ethos of a society essentially is for war. The unifying, like, it's what unifies a society is war. So ever since 1947, the U.S. takes over as basically the superpower of the world. We create the national security state. That's what we are. It's a national security state. You got to justify having a total surveillance society, having a society devoted to overthrowing governments, which we've done, over 70 plus coups and operations in countries all over the world. You need to have a bad guy. You need to have a villain, and the Soviets played that role for 50 years roughly,
right.
and then at the time that the Soviet Union was collapsing, around the time of 70s and 80s, you have the Arc of Crisis. That was Huntington, Brzezinski, within Carter's, they became part of Carter's administration essentially. But these are like Trilateral Commission guys, and they're promoting the idea of what Huntington called the clash of civilizations. So basically, everyone can be turned against each other, and there's nothing like once you lose the communist threat, it became more cultural and religious. And his whole thing was like there are these countries that are fault lines, like Yugoslavia, which basically starts to get blown up by the 80s and 90s, right? And that's like Yugoslavia is a country that has Slavs, Croatians, Slovaks. I mean, it has different ethnicities, but it also has religions. It has Catholics, East Orthodox, Muslims. And one of the easiest things to foment is Islam versus the West. So countries like Lebanon get blown up. Countries like Yugoslavia. In Afghanistan, it's working with the Muslims against the communists. In Iran, we essentially back Khomeini to take over against the secular regime. As I said, that's been a strategy going back to the middle. Always the British in the Middle East have always played this kind of hand. So the Shah gets overthrown, and you get a Muslim Shia fanatics who are pitted against the Sunnis in Arabia and the rest of the Middle East.
Right.
You see, so like everywhere you go,
because
you see
we
this.
thought that they would be able to deal with Saddam Hussein's
It's a balance.
people.
It's a balance,
and that completely didn't work at all.
Well, it worked for a bloody war. I mean, we supported. We gave the chemical, biological arms, all kinds of stuff to Saddam to fight Iran for 8 bloody years of conflict, and probably millions of people died in that war. And then at the end of the war, we turn around and we say, okay, Saddam, we're going to check your military power.
I just had Scott Horton in here telling me the whole story about this guy named Chalabi, who like sold us the
Curveball? Yeah, what's he called? Curveball. Chalabi.
Yeah, Chalabi. Some like 2-bit con man who was trying to...
They were going to prop him up at one point as to be like the new president of Iraq when they overthrow Saddam. But I don't think that was ever a real plan. I think that was just being like proposed as a possibility. It's the same way like we're talking about putting Pahlavi back in Iran. That's not a realistic play. No. You're not going to bring some guy from outside to like
John Kiriakou said he wouldn't survive the walk from the plane from the tarmac to the terminal.
Pahlavi?
Yeah, when he got back, if he makes it back to Iran, he won't survive. He won't even make it out of the airport alive.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Iranians. A lot of these guys are much more like pro-Iran than I am. I'm not like pro-regime. I don't like the Islamic Republic. I wish we would go back to a more secular, rule in that country and frankly in the world. But the point is that since the 70s and 80s, we've been fomenting, along with the British intelligence groups, the Israelis, we've been fomenting these conflicts because, as I said, it's the easiest way to create conflict is to go around religious fault lines. It's like, and then even now, to this day, like we've got cartels and things operating, and people are more freaked out about Islam in America than they are about the cartels. It's pretty crazy.
Literally running around in our forests.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
In California.
It's pretty crazy, and it's like in Texas, they're more they're not waging a war on the cartels. They're more freaked out by Islamics who are like less than 5% of the population.
Right.
Because religion is just so easy to get people in that fear.
Have you ever left a doctor's appointment feeling like you learned absolutely nothing? Like you're fine, drink some more water and we'll see you again next year. No real data, no informative knowledge, no action plan, just a handshake and a shrug. And that's the reason I love what Superpower is doing. It's a much more proactive way to understand what's going on in your body. Superpower sends a licensed professional to your home, or you can visit a nearby lab. And with one simple set of labs, they measure 100 plus biomarkers. Then everything shows up in the app: heart, liver, thyroid, hormones, metabolism, vitamins, minerals, even environmental elements. So you can stop guessing and see what actually needs attention. And what I really love is that it's not just a one-time snapshot. Superpower tracks your results over time, shows your biological age, helps you understand long-term trends, and gives you an actionable plan based on your data. You can even upload past lab results and keep everything all in one place. And if questions ever come up, they've got an on-demand care team inside the platform, so you're not left decoding numbers at midnight. For a limited time, our listeners get $20 off to unlock their new health intelligence. Head on over to superpower.com and use the code DANNY for $20 off your membership. That's code DANNY. And after you sign up, they're going to ask how you heard about Superpower. And do me a favor and let them know that the Danny Jones podcast sent you. When you talk to somebody, by the way, shout out to Beck Lover for hooking us up.
Oh, yeah.
Beck's great. I love Beck. But when he was on the podcast, a couple months ago now. He, because it's a lot of people that I know and a lot of people you talk to, it just seems like there is this very strong misunderstanding about, like, even I'm very ignorant to it too, of Islam, because we've been sold this idea of Islamic jihadists, bombers our whole lives since 9/11. It's like, it's so deeply rooted in our psyche in America, right? Yeah. And then when you talk to somebody like Beck, who is explaining, like, no, it's not. It's more compatible with Christianity than Judaism.
Of course.
And it's been hijacked. This narrative, you took this narrative and they hijacked Islam to paint this narrative to Americans to make us fear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just go to the essence. To me, like, the main point is that Muslims honor Jesus as essentially as a Messiah. He's basically born of a virgin. Mm-hmm. They honor the Virgin Mary. I mean, you read the Quran, and the Quran is all the story of Abraham, the story of Moses, the story of the Jewish prophets, right? So it's basically the Old Testament repackaged. I've never read any of it. Yeah, I mean, that's not all of it, but most of it is like derived from the Old Testament stories. And a lot of it really just, it's like Old Testament meets New Testament. It reminds me of like the Arian heresy, or one of these heresies that occurred in early Christianity, basically before the Catholic Church had codified, with like Nicaea and whatnot, had codified the religion. There were various sects that were like, I think they were like the Arians and others, that basically saw Christ as a divine emissary, but they wouldn't say Christ as God. They'd be like, you're a divine emissary, God cannot be, like, you can't be God, and God is the creator of all, and like, you're an extension.
Couldn't
you're
be capital G God.
Yeah, it gets confusing. It's like we're all God's children, but Christ is the special one. I mean, it gets like, so they kind of ignored all that to say, like, no, Christ is a divine emissary. He's able to work miracles. He has the Holy Spirit. He's of a virgin. But because of that mentality, I think the Muslims basically took that theology, and that's why Islam honors Jesus. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, there's, like I told you, like, Indonesia is the biggest Muslim country in the world, population-wise, almost 200 million Muslims. Majority, are not jihadists. Majority, in fact, like probably one of the more peaceful societies. And then you get, like the Muslims of the modern, like of the Middle East, that a lot of them are Arabic, and it's a different cultural thing. Like anything. Like, you talk about, people think like the hijab. Yeah. I mean, first of all, like, why are you guys freaked out about hijab? Nuns do the same thing. It's a spiritual practice. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't agree with forcing women to wear a hijab like Iran was doing. Right. Apparently, they've laid off now. Like, I don't think you should force someone to. But the idea of wearing a hijab shouldn't be something scary, considering that it's obviously goes back for a reason. The nuns do that for a reason. Mm-hmm. They also cover their hair for a reason. That goes back to that tradition in that region. Right. The Jews do as well. The Orthodox Jews do the same, like, as far as covering the headscarves and things like this. This has to do with like regional traditions. Mm-hmm. And then you get like the veil, which, again, is more of, to me, to my understanding, is more of like a traditional thing, going back to like desert Bedouin type of peoples. Right.
Now, when it comes to things like imprisoning people for converting from Islam to Christianity, is that like only in Iran, or is that only a Shia thing?
No, I mean, look, technically conversion. Well, there's a couple things. I mean, one, there's supposed to be no compulsion in religion. That's in the Quran. There should be no compulsion in religion. So the fact that any society is operating on this religious compulsion thing is, to me, it's like, it's wrong, and it's used for power. Mm-hmm. But as far as conversion, like, yes, if you like leave Islam, yeah, you can be punished for that, which I also think it's wrong. I mean,
is that in the Quran? Do you know?
I think it's in the Quran. It's either Quran or Hadith. So but either way, I don't think it's the right approach. I don't think that these things. Again, there's different extremes when it comes to Islamic interpretation, and that's why I'm saying, like, so much of the conflict that we have seems to be, it's not all of us, but not all coming from the West. But I'm saying that we have literally worked to promote Islamic, extremism. I mean, you go back to like the British in the region. The British put the Saudis, which were a Wahhabist, more extreme, version of Islam, they put the Saudis in control of Arabia. that was supposed to go. And I remember in Lawrence of Arabia, the movie, they kind of go into some of this politics of like the different tribes, and then the Hashemite, who is played by Alec Guinness, I believe, in the film, instead of getting Arabia, which was what he expected, they gave him Jordan, and basically Transjordan, and what was like then like, you know, Palestine. So a lot of this is just like empires coming in, carving stuff up, and then saying, okay, you know, we're giving Israel to the Jews, we're giving, you know, Syria, Lebanon to the French. Palestine was being overseen by the British.
Yeah.
So again, it's like all this kind of gerrymandering, right? Going on.
Yeah. Well, one of my friends actually sent me this video on Instagram. I'm going to send this to you, Steve, so you can play this. And it was showing how like less than 3 years after World War II ended, that Israel was poisoning waterways and villages with typhoid. And like it's just so crazy that the people who just got done having this stuff done to them turn around that fast and immediately start doing it to other people.
People have to, if people are interested, I mean, people have heard about the Nakba, essentially the expulsion of the Palestinians or the local Muslims from, you know, from what was then Israel.
Right.
It was Plan Dalet was the operation, and there's been some very good books written about historical, you know, based on historical documents and evidence about the expulsion. And it was done, you know, sometimes execution and murder, but mostly it was done by things like that, poisoning of wells, driving people from their villages. And, you know, there's a lot of grievance around that. That's why, you know, it's like, I don't agree with Hamas saying, you know, let's exterminate Israel, and Iran having that ideology is very dangerous. It's destabilizing for the region. But the truth is, you know, Iran is currently destabilizing the region, but Israel has also, you know, has been a destabilizing force since its inception, because it was based on, you know, on a conquest, on a war, which, unlike most wars, the refugees didn't have a right to return. And that's what people don't understand. That's what's different. Most war, if based on conquest, the refugees have a right to return.
Right.
Israel can't give them the right to return, because then they will become a minority. The Jews will become a minority in their own country. So they will not give the expelled Palestinians the right to return to their villages, their land, you know, their olive trees, all that they had basically cultivated for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And that's why this war is so entrenched in that region. We've been entrenched in a quagmire since 48, essentially.
Yeah, Tim Dillon had a great bit on his episode the other day. He was explaining how America is Carmela from The Sopranos and Israel is Tony Soprano. And we're meeting with the shrink, trying to explain, like, he's cheating on me. He has all of these broads that he's banging, and all I do is do his laundry. And that's how it was fucking hilarious. But like, we're Carmela from The Sopranos.
I never got into that show. I'm not a big, like, I don't know. I was never that much into like the gangster culture. I love Godfather, but to me it was more a story of family, you know, than gangsterism.
Yeah, no, yeah. It was just a classic show. But the gangster, I mean, the mafia stuff has been like a integral part of the history of this country, you know, and like the special ops stuff and all the covert ops. Like even JFK, I mean, there's a huge like mafia involvement in all that stuff, which is crazy.
Somebody, you know, he's from one of those families. He told me, he said, look, the mafia were basically started being sent here by what he called the Illuminati. And the Illuminati are like, his way of understanding is like the old banking families of Europe, like the real owners of Europe, right? And it was basically about collecting on finance. Like they were investing in America, and the mob, this, you know, especially like the Sicilian type, you know, mafia and whatnot, like they were enforcers to make sure that the labor unions weren't getting out of control, because that's what the mob does. Wow. They controlled the unions, right? Yeah. To make sure that the labor wasn't getting out of control, to ensure that productivity continued, and that the debts, you know, basically that the debts got paid. And then by the 60s, so yeah, you mentioned Kennedy. So like Kennedy family, Joe Kennedy, I mean, apparently they were working, you know, with bootleggers, which basically mob elements, right? Bootlegging back in the 20s when alcohol was illegal. And then, so, you know, basically Joe Kennedy and company were like, asking for the support of the mafia, Giancana, people like that. When JFK ran, even though RFK had been this watchdog on, when RFK was at the Justice Department, right? And he was, I think, who did he expel? He didn't send Giancana. He sent one of those guys down to like Guatemala, Honduras, or Venezuela or something. Like deported him.
Wow.
So, basically, he was. He obviously went after Hoffa and whatnot. But there was a lot of betrayal from the mafia because JFK basically reneged. He didn't take Cuba back. JFK came in. He allowed. I get into this in my RFK Legacy documentary. JFK as president, basically, he comes in. He allows Dulles, who's running the CIA, to run this operation to try to, send 1,000 guys into Cuba to overthrow Castro.
Right.
It was a joke. It was basically, Dulles knew the operation was never going to work with a few, 1,000 guys. It was the intention was to.
They needed air support, right? And he canceled that last minute.
It wasn't just that. It was like the intention really was. It was almost like a give me an inch and take a mile. Dulles wanted Kennedy to commit. He felt like if he would do air support and then anything, basically, he would then escalate. The intention was, let me start with a small invasion, and then rather than have egg on my face for this debacle, commit the U.S. Army to go in and overthrow Castro. That was Dulles' intention. And JFK was too smart. He said, no. That's it. So he pulled, the Air Force, he actually allowed the airstrikes. It was some kind of delay. There was a mistake. It was a miscommunication. The airstrikes didn't get there on time. But Kennedy realized what they were trying to do. They were trying to bait him, his own intelligence community. And rather than get baited into a full-on invasion, U.S. invasion, he said, no, we're not, and obviously the Cubans were pissed. They didn't overthrow Castro, but the mafia was pissed too because those were their casinos in Cuba, right? And they wanted the island back. So everyone hated JFK at that point. Anyway, so the mob was certainly an element in the assassination, but I don't think that they were the controlling element necessarily.
What is your 30,000 foot mile high view of the JFK thing? What do you think that was? Do you think there's any simple way to distill what that was about, or do you think it's just too much of a hornet's nest?
No, it's not just a hornet's nest. I think it's a gateway drug. I think everyone should look at it.
There's so many flavors of it.
Everyone should get high on it.
Yeah, and I agree.
You start opening up that portal, and you look at a lot of things. You look at the relationship of CIA with mafia and how entangled they were, and that whole, again, like the dynamic of power, essentially, right? And the nature of power in America. So you've got CIA mafia relationships, you've got the military-industrial complex, the Pentagon and all that wanting Kennedy to commit to war in Vietnam, which, they're like, look, if Kennedy won't even overthrow Castro, who was like 90 miles away, and he clearly has said he doesn't see the Vietnam Civil War. It was North Vietnam and South Vietnam at the time. He doesn't see us supporting South Vietnam with too many troops. They had a certain number of advisors at that point, a few thousand troops, like more special forces types. But Kennedy was like, it's a civil war. They got to figure it out for themselves. So he was never going to commit to like a full war in Vietnam the way that Johnson did. You've got the Federal Reserve bankers. Kennedy was, he did transition us in 1962 to issuing currency from the Treasury for the first time. So like he had, some of those, some of the money being issued in 1962 was actually from our Treasury. And there was a executive order based on his relationship with Indonesia that was Sukarno at the time, because of the gold, that they were going to basically use the gold, I think, from Indonesia. This goes back to World War II gold that the Japanese had stolen. It's like there's a whole story around that we got our hands on it. But essentially, Kennedy was going to use the gold to back dollars coming out of the Treasury. And there was, at that in 1962, some money issued for the Treasury for the first time since Lincoln had done it.
Oh, wow.
So bypassing the Federal Reserve, which all our money comes from the Federal Reserve. It's all issued with interest as a loan from the Fed. Right. all of our debt. So it's debt, it's actually starts with debt interest owed to the Federal Reserve. So that's a private bank. Anyway, so the point being, Kennedy was interested in bypassing that and bringing it back to constitutional money, which is gold and silver. It's only constitutional money. And it's only, all currency is supposed to be issued from the Treasury, not from a private bank.
Interesting.
So there's that. There's the alien question, because Kennedy was interested in the UFOs and the little men or whatever they had discovered. And there's some pillow talk. At one point I read, it was like him and Marilyn, like notes from like an FBI or whatnot. FBI, I think it was an FBI.
Marilyn Monroe?
Yeah, it was like an FBI transcript of their conversation, and Kennedy mentioning, like, to her, like, what do you think? Should I disclose? Could I disclose that there's, these like beings, essentially, like alien life on Earth? So there's that component. Well, he mentioned it. They were being monitored. FBI was monitoring their convos. Angleton, probably from CIA, was probably monitoring. Everyone was curious, obviously, what the president says and knows. So there's all these different elements to the Kennedy assassination when you start like looking at it, going, who killed him? Because it's such a plot that you imagine that everyone wanted him dead. Everyone was happy to see him go. Right. And
there's lots of motives.
Yeah. So that's why, when you read stuff like, from people who say that they were there, and you get like, mafia hitmen, and you've got people like Howard Hunt, who confessed on his deathbed to his son that he was there. And various CIA operatives, but the question of who organized it, there's been suspicion about various CIA guys that were running it, and ultimately was Alan Dulles the controller, or could it have been outsourced to foreign power? It goes, and I think without like having direct knowledge, of who gave the command, it's very difficult to speculate.
When I first heard about Amanita Muscaria, I thought it was just a fringe head shop fad. We've all seen the gas station fakes out there. Until I was introduced to Amantara, and I realized there's a bunch of science behind the real deal and how useful it is. The active compound muscimol interacts with GABA-A receptors, the same system tied to relaxation, sleep, and nervous system balance. Amantara won me over with their education on the science and history of this botanical. They're the largest Amanita supplier in the USA, and what separates them from the junk is how serious they take their quality. Full third-party lab testing, transparent sourcing, and actual educational content, and over 60,000 customers at this point. What really flipped the switch for me was how not gimmicky they are. The more I looked into the history and the sourcing of this stuff, the more it felt like one of those things that was hiding in plain sight. If you're like me and you want to try from a source that you can trust, go to amantara.com/go/DJ and use the code DJP22 for 22% off your first order. Again, that's AMENTARA.com/go/DJ. And don't forget to use the code DJP22. There's also that story of one of JFK's mistresses who introduced JFK to Timothy Leary, and he allegedly did like LSD with Timothy Leary, and that was like one of the points that like
I don't think he did. I don't know if he did it with Timothy, but Timothy gave him LSD. It was Mary. She was married to a CIA guy,
Mary
Pinchot
Meyer.
Mary Meyer. Mary Pinchot Meyer. Was it Pinchot?
Pinchot, yeah.
Yeah. She was married to Cord Meyer, who was one of these CIA operations guys.
Yeah.
That was...
and she was whacked after this, right?
She got killed.
Didn't she get killed like out on a jog or something?
Yes. She was jogging or walking, jogging in D.C. area, and someone came up and killed her. She knew too much. So yeah, I think, and Cord died too. He killed himself, I think. But he was one of these guys that was operating, overthrowing people, overthrowing Mossadegh in Iran and, Arbenz in Guatemala. Like, he was operational with CIA. But as far as another element, speaking of drugs, was, and this is my friend who's like, again, like from one of the mafia families. He said that the mob was moving to really push, drugs big time by the 60s, right? Mm-hmm. That was going to be, as we saw, like the explosion in the, first it was, cocaine to a certain extent, but heroin, and then coke and crack, right? 70s into the 80s, talking heroin, coke, and crack became like the big drugs in the U.S. And that was the mafia. The mafia was. Do you remember, like in Godfather, the first one, when they're having that conversation, and they're basically like, we can't start selling heroin and drugs. We can't start selling drugs basically to our, communities. Like only the blacks will take it. Remember?
Right. Yeah.
They're like, yeah, the blacks will take it. We don't have to worry about it. And it's like, I don't know. Like once you start bringing it, it's going to destroy us. And that was why there's a falling out. And that was true. That was a real falling out in the mafia. Like Genovese and people like that were like big into the heroin trafficking. And that was, again, CIA mafia connection going back. So, again, you've got like the Marseille, Corsican connection, right? But you've also got a huge pipe, basically a huge market from Vietnam, which is why they wanted the Golden Triangle heroin. And that becomes then, a major export during the Vietnam War is the heroin, opium, all that stuff, right? And so again, if Kennedy doesn't commit to the Vietnam War, it's gonna be harder to get that easy access, that cheap access to the heroin. And then thereafter, also they were already looking at South America, Bolivia, and places like this for the cocaine. So it was already strategized that the drugs were going to play a huge role in the international black ops and black fine, like
financing shit,
black
that
financing,
they
right?
can't get through
Congress,
right?
Off books financing, right? You want off books money? Talk, guns, drugs, human trafficking. I would say probably the three biggest.
Yeah, and so I had I'm familiar with John Newman.
Sounds familiar.
John Newman wrote like, I don't know how many JFK books, at least 24 JFK books, and I believe he was a consultant on the first JFK film that your dad did. And he's been writing stuff ever since. He's an old dude. He works at older guy, works at George Washington. So he's somewhere up there, one of those schools up there. And he was basically telling me when he was on here that his whole view of the whole Kennedy thing was that it was a military coup, and that like all the Joint Chiefs were conspiring against him, including like Lemitzer and Taylor. And so essentially his view is it was a military coup, and the CIA was just the cover up. And one of the smoking gun pieces of evidence he found was he found a CIA cable from the Mexico City desk to Langley or whatever. And what it was an indication of an FBI flash stop being taken off Oswald's file the day before Kennedy was shot. And Oswald, being a defector and being on the route where the president was, he says Oswald being on that route is the equivalence to a flea being at a Lysol convention with all of everyone that was watching him 24/7. Yeah. So the fact that the CIA acknowledged that his FBI flash stop was being taken off of his file the day before is extremely suspicious. So he got a hold of the CIA officer who was the one who signed off on that cable, that CIA cable, and he went and interviewed her before she died. Yeah. And I forget exactly what her response was to him, but she basically said, he goes, "What's this? What's this mean?" Yeah. And she's like, "This is very indicative of something that they didn't want anyone to know about, that they're keeping very close to the chest." That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't official. I mean, it wasn't like at the time, McCone was the head of the CIA, and he'd been appointed by Kennedy. So it wasn't like official CIA. We're talking David Harvey guy. David Harvey was one of the guys that hated the Kennedy brothers, and he came back from, I think he was in Rome. He was like stationed in Rome, which would indicate like, people like Angleton James Angleton was in Rome like at the end of the Second World War, helping to run the rat lines of like the Nazis that we were bringing out of Germany, right? Into America, into South America. Yeah. And Harvey came back, and he was in the U.S. and people were like, why was he basically in town for this operation? I mean, so there's the old boy network, the old OSS network of like Harvey, Hunt, people like that, right? Who basically Dulles, who were around from the World War II days. And that's why I say some of the operational stuff, people have always speculated like who was Hitler's favorite favorite SS guy. He's like he rescued Mussolini. He was a famous SS officer, and he got pulled out from the rat lines as well. And look up who the
SS officer who rescued Mussolini.
And there is some speculation. Skorzeny.
Skorzeny?
Was it Skorzeny?
Okay.
There's some speculation like he could have been involved with operationally, like helping oversee it. It's
Really?
like former. Yeah, Skorzeny is a great character. I mean, this guy, Scarface, the real Scarface. So again, you've got, you're so close to the Second World War, you've got like literal, like, real fascists, like real ex-Nazis. Because remember, that's who was plotting against de Gaulle in France. The same time that Kennedy is killed, they've already nearly killed de Gaulle multiple times. Remember Day of the Jackal, the book and then the film based on it was all about these various right-wing French, fascist groups that were trying to take out de Gaulle because he had surrendered Algeria, essentially, and they looked at him as a traitor. So the same time that so again, it's like this kind of, it's more international than just national, I think is the way that I look at it. And because, again, you're the President of the United States, you're having a major impact globally. As I said, drug markets, wars affect finance, it affects, you name everything, weapons, oil. I mean, everything is geared, in a sense, you could say, since the Second World War, economically. That's why to this day, we spend almost $1 trillion a year on war, between surveillance and security. It's literally an organizing principle of the state. And so to your point about the Mexico cable, it reminds me of The Man Who Knew Too Much, which was a great book by Dick Russell. And that was, who was the CIA officer in that book, The Man Who Knew Too Much? He pulls up in a Mexican bank like a week before the assassination, shoots it up, and he basically wants to go to jail because he knows that they're going to kill the president.
Oh yes, I remember this.
Oh, sorry, it's not The Man Who Knew Too Much. It's the look up the Dick Russell book, I thought it was The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Man who shoots up bank before Kennedy assassination.
Let's see. It's not the man. It is The Man Who Knew Too Much. You see it, Richard Case Nagel.
Yeah, okay. Former U.S. intelligence officer and CIA contact claimed that the KGB hired him to assassinate Lee Harvey Oswald in order to prevent the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
What?
But he got himself arrested by firing a shot in the El Paso. Oh, it was in Texas. Sorry, I thought it was in Mexico. But it's like, I mean, you get stuff like this and you just go, what in the world?
So
people knew. Like, there was a lot of people that knew.
2 months before... That's crazy. Yeah, that's insane, dude.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's a great book. It's worth reading. The Man Who Knew Too Much.
There's also another fascinating...
And Dick Russell ended up working with Rob Reiner on their podcast, which they recently did before Rob got killed, about the JFK assassination. Whoa. That was like the last thing that Rob did, I think.
Yeah. There's also that crazy book called... Mary's Monkey. Have you heard that one?
Yeah.
That one's wild too. About all the crazy medical vaccine research with Alton Ochsner and Mary Sherman, who got incinerated by this Linac machine, and they covered up the murder.
Yeah.
And then like...
Well, it explains something I didn't understand. When my dad made JFK, remember the Dave Ferry character played by Pesci.
Yes.
And he's got cancer, and he's dying of cancer, and he's also researching. He's got a bunch of mice in his house. Like all these lab
rats all over.
Yeah. And that was because they were working with the mice to try to
cancer weapons, right? Well,
both to create fast acting cancers and to prevent it, like how to basically create the cancer and to kill the cancer. That's what one of the things that she was working on, if I recall.
Yeah, that is, and that's the reason that they had that linear accelerator in the basement of that hospital there in New Orleans, and they were basically shooting cancer tumors with that freaking linear accelerator machine and trying to figure out how to like turbocharge it or find out ways to do weapons. And one of the part of that story is that when Oswald went to Mexico City, he was bringing vials of that stuff that they had developed in an attempt to go from Mexico over to Cuba to try to get it to kill Castro with it.
Well, again, I mean, Oswald's being, he seems to be, working with us, but then they would cheap dip him and make him look like he was pro Castro. But I think he was just an operative. I think he was one of these guys that probably just saw himself as a soldier, as a good soldier. right to the end. It's too bad those notes were destroyed, right? The ones that were taken when he was detained in Dallas, you know, the notes that of the interview, all that's gone. So he was interviewed. Remember, before he was killed, it was like 2 days later he was killed
After the shooting.
Yeah,
So he was interviewed after the shooting before he was killed.
exactly.
Okay.
And those notes are gone. No one, I don't think anyone's seen them.
Probably never will.
Maybe they were hidden, but they probably
Why
shredded.
haven't we? We were supposed to see the JFK files, right? Didn't Trump say he was going to release all those?
Well, they have been a lot, but the problem is like we don't know if all of it's been revealed and released, and then more importantly, like what hasn't been destroyed. I mean, when Richard Helms, who was the director of the CIA, when he got fired by Nixon, he went and shredded everything. I mean,
Right.
And we only know about MK Ultra because of like a few boxes, like literally.
So
like
if
a
MK
handful of
Ultra
boxes.
wasn't in the first box he burned, that must have been like way tamer than all the shit he did burn.
I mean, could you imagine? Like, they probably destroyed so much about the Kennedy, Oswald, all that stuff. I mean,
yeah.
right.
Roswell. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. There's probably so much crazy shit that was burned. What do you got, Steve? Oh, this is the transcripts. Yeah, and then I was talking to John Kiriakou a couple days ago, and he was telling me that like he has people that he knows, sources that tell him that the reason they won't release the rest of the JFK files is because they point to Israel. And then you have the whole Israeli angle of it with the nuclear material and all that stuff.
Well, so I mean, the motive. Okay, so which book? Yeah, I mean, there's a good book that kind of gets into the Israeli motive. The Israeli motive, I don't doubt. I mean, Ben-Gurion hated Kennedy.
Right.
Kennedy even talked about, basically said, look, you guys should either repatriate the Palestinians who were forced out by the creation of Israel. You should either bring them home to let them settle, or basically give them some kind of, economic ability to rebuild, or, what's it called, reparation, give them reparation. That's the Israelis don't want to do that. So there was that component. And then there was also the Israeli nuclear facility, which they lied about. Kennedy was concerned about nuclear proliferation, and so the fact that the Israelis were developing the nuke at that time,
right?
They certainly did not want inspection. They did not want. They did not want the U.S. to stop them from developing it. So, yeah, I think that there's a motivation. The problem for me is the evidence of who, in terms of the people that are pretty clearly involved. Again, even you get Howard Hunt giving his deathbed confession to his son about being in Dallas. It's like, okay, so who are the Israeli operatives? Now you can look at people like Meyer Lansky, who's Jewish mafia character, very connected to the Italian mob. Partnered with what was his name? The famous, who was Lansky's partner in the mafia, Lucky Luciano, for example. Right, that was Lucky's partner. Right, so Meyer's one of the brains of the mafia in America. So certainly someone like him. And he amongst a number of others were supporting the creation of Israel from the beginning. So yeah, you have those elements involved. But as far as the actual Israeli ability to kill the president,
right, that's not so much.
That's why I don't know. I haven't seen the evidence for it. People say it, but it's like, okay, you can say anything, but present some evidence to show which elements exactly we're talking about and what their role is in the assassination.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, the only ones that would have had the true ability to do it would be the American military. And, with all their connections in the mafia, in organized crime, and also utilizing foreign people.
Well, it has to be, I mean, even Secret Service has to be told to stand, when John, the whole organization of the parade route, the fact that, as you said, people like Oswald were working on the parade route and allowed to be there. It's like the fact that the motorcade, the convoy, that they didn't have police bikes next to the president. Johnson said to them, "Oh, the president wants to, don't obstruct, his view of the crowd." So they're told to come back. Johnson, he tried to switch it up to get Connolly out of the front seat.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, because Connolly was his buddy, but he couldn't change that. So Connolly ended up getting shot, not killed. there's a moment even on the tarmac when the plane lands, and you can see the video of it, where there's one Secret Service guy who's about to go and jump on the side of the president's car, right? There's like a little, like a runner on the side, running board, where the security is supposed to be on that running board. And he's literally, you can see him being called back on the tarmac. No. He's like, what's going on? He's like about to jump on the runner to be right there positioned to protect the president, essentially. And he's called right back on the tarmac. So enough people have to be involved with the security, with the assassination, with being able to move people in and out. You know, that's the CIA, the pilots. Tosh Plumley just put out a book. He was one of the CIA pilots.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about, flying in. Who did he fly in? Roselli, who was a mobster. Hunt. Charles Harrison, who was Woody's father. He was a mob hitman who many people suspected of being there that day. And Charles Nicoletti. And another guy. So Tosh talks about who he flew in to Dallas that day. But certainly, I mean, look at who, like my dad said in JFK, find the 50 best marksmen in the world and find out who was in Dallas that day, right? even Carlos the Jackal, apparently one of the Carlos the Jackals, who was famous, apparently was there that day. So a lot of people were there, even if they were as the decoys, even if they were as distractions.
Yeah,
if you get that feeling, like it was. There was no way he was going to exit alive.
And it seems like he almost kind of knew it was going to happen. There was that speech, the speech that he made before that was like, I don't remember it word for word, but it was like, it signaled, like if you could translate that speech, it sounded like he knew he wasn't long for the earth.
Well, he was sick too, don't forget. He was very, he had these, I can't remember what the illness was, but this is why, like, he had spinal problems, right?
From war or whatever.
No, I think even before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even before. And can't remember what the condition is, but essentially he was degenerating. And some people said like he may not have even survived to like his 50s. I mean, he was he was like 45 or something when he died. But I think he knew he was not long for the earth.
Yeah.
And that's probably why he was trying to do these things, like make rapprochement with the Soviet Union, basically saying, let's do a joint mission together to the moon. Let's work on the space program together. Yeah. All this stuff was like, as I said, everything he did antagonized the military industrial complex that essentially operates on enemies and war. And if Kennedy had basically said, let's move to rapprochement, let's not have a Cold War. Let's not justify these massive military spending. Let's focus on peaceful things like space travel. And if we had done that, I mean, again, it would have changed our history. But I don't think consciousness. I guess we weren't ready for that. We had to play out this crazy, this crazy mindset that we've still experiencing. Us versus them. And I think we're getting past it. I think we are kind of getting into a more global mind, in a sense of not a hive mind, but a global awareness and consciousness, of our common humanity across religions, across cultures, across languages, right? I don't know if we were there at that time. Maybe that's why destiny prevailed, in a sense that he played the role of King Arthur in Camelot. Camelot, is a moment. And essentially once he knew that he was in Camelot, well, Arthur's end is tragic. Right. Arthur ends because his own people betray him. Lancelot, betrays him, and Guinevere runs off with Lancelot, and the kingdom descends into civil war. Right. So it's very interesting that you be careful the myths you choose to live by.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Starting a business is a big deal. And what really surprised me was how much simpler Shopify made it for us. We use Shopify for our merch store and recently revamped all of our products. From day one, it felt like the tools were simple and easy, instead of feeling like I was learning a whole new profession. The design part was way easier than I expected, and Shopify's templates and AI tools helped us get the storefront looking clean, professional, and real without needing any code. And then once people start buying, Shopify's checkout makes it a breeze. Customers move through it fast. Returning buyers can check out in a click, and that's when you hear that little because the process just works. And if you hit a wall, Shopify has Sidekick built in. It's their AI assistant, and it helps you troubleshoot, build, and keep moving without wasting hours stuck on one problem. All you need is an idea, and let Shopify handle the rest. Start your free trial at shopify.com/DannyJones. Again, start your free trial at shopify.com/DannyJones. Shopify.com/DannyJones. And then there was also this guy who was the Hollywood guy. who was a part of brokering the deal to get the nuclear stuff over to Israel, or right? Something like that.
Milchan?
Is that the producer?
Yeah, he was my dad's partner for like a few years.
He was actually partners with him?
Yeah. Milchan was...
so he was in the... I learned about him through watching the Bibi Files documentary, because he was all over that documentary.
Is that Tucker's new
That's
documentary?
The one on... Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if Tucker made the documentary. I think it was Alex Gibney that made that film.
Oh, really?
Can you confirm that?
Alex Bloom?
No, Alex Gibney.
I don't think Gibney did it.
No?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Gibney did the
Produced
BB
by Alex Gibney.
Okay.
Oh, he produced it.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. So the BB Files is not the one Tucker did.
So no, it was that same one was on Tucker's website.
Right.
So he was like, so the BB Files documentary premiered, directed by Alex Bloom, and produced by Alex Gibney. Tucker Carlson acquired the film and streams it on his platform.
You know, I have to watch it. I haven't seen it yet. That's cool.
Yeah, it was just lots of like security footage of interrogations from the investigations into Bibi.
That's interesting.
And
yeah, because
so
the whole thing is how this guy survives for so long. You know, he was literally on the cusp of being indicted, and you know, and
like it was so weird.
Corruption charges, right?
It's like he goes around and he expects people just to give him free stuff. Like people just give him gifts, like stupid gifts, like alcohol or whatever they like, what kind of champagne, what kind of cigars, and they're interrogating him about like, why did you ask him for $5,000 worth of cigars? He's like, I don't know. They just give them to me or whatever. And then Arnon Milchan was like, he's like, I don't know. He was like, it was part of the deal. I just had to give him all these cigars. Very weird.
Arnon?
Just no, not Arnon himself.
Oh, he didn't. He gave him cigars though.
Just the idea, like how like they're interrogating people for giving him cigars and alcohol and stuff like this. And it's almost like he's like they need to do this to impress him or something, or like maybe it's some sort of weird control thing I don't understand.
It's a gift. I mean, it's very normal in the VIP world, and so, you know, in politics and whatnot. Is gifting, right? That's how you get around tax.
Right.
Declarations. You know, giving someone gifts instead of money. That doesn't surprise me. The Netanyahu, he's a dark one. He's a very dark personality. I mean, I met him. I think he's a sociopath, but you know, I don't get the impression that he has much empathy.
Right.
And you know, you go back into the story about was it not before Sharon? Who was the Israeli prime minister that was killed in the 90s? I'm blanking on his name. That assassination, there's, you know, Netanyahu was there at the time. I mean, he was riling up the right wing at that time, Rabin, and Rabin was trying to work on, you know, towards a peace deal with Arafat. You know, this was in 95, 94, 95, I remember, and it was really shocking, you know, his assassination. And, you know, some people really wonder about Netanyahu having a role in that, beyond fomenting the right. So basically, not agitating the right, basically calling Rabin a traitor. I mean, Rabin was a hard right guy who basically said, look, enough war. We need to make peace with our neighbors. And for that, he was killed. So, I mean, I don't know, Netanyahu and Hamas are like, they're two sides of the same coin. There's no wonder that, you know, Israel has been accused of financing Hamas. It's like, that's, you know, you gotta, like I said, you create your enemies, because that's the level of, you know, of consciousness that they're playing at.
Yeah,
it's an endless war game. It's a blood game. So with Arnon, I mean, you know, people think because he was a producer on JFK that he directed my dad away from the Israeli connection.
Right.
As I said, my dad came back to do another documentary series called JFK Through the Looking Glass, and that was both a documentary and a series. I mean,
that was fantastic.
He wanted to reassess with the documents that did come out after the film. There were a number of documents, government documents, archives that were released in the 90s, and even before this newest batch. And then I wanted to like reapproach it and just say, look, what do the documents say? What do the forensics say? And get back into the story again.
Yeah.
And I mean, my dad understands, as I said, the Israeli motivation. We have not seen the evidence of, you know, which operatives in the assassination were Israelis. Where is the Israeli command component?
Right.
You know, that's something that, you know, it's like the British have a motivation, you know, but we don't know, like, without pointing to certain people and saying, okay, that one's an operative of Britain or Israel. Like, it's very difficult to say that they killed him, you know? And so, as far as Milchan was a producer on JFK, but he was a partner with my dad on a number of projects, and they fell apart because he was supposed to make Nixon with my father. So my dad went to make Nixon, and Arnon basically reneged on the deal or whatever. He backed out. So my dad went on to make Nixon without him, and they parted ways at that point.
Did Arnon have any sort of like creative input, or was he just financial? Or
no, I mean, he was a finance guy. I mean, he knew good scripts. He believed in direct. I think he believed in my father at that point. My dad had 3 Oscars. I think he believed in him as a filmmaker.
Yeah,
it wasn't. You're talking. Creative input. It depends on. There's very few directors, as they say, who get final cut in Hollywood. Right, that's a rare thing. So you always have a lot of input on projects from studios, producers. But also input is part of the creative process anyway. You're going to get notes. You're going to, but I don't know. Like, you get stories like the Kubrick, Eyes Wide Shut thing, and whether or not there were things cut out of that movie. I wish I had really.
And The Shining.
It's so interesting. I wish I had known more about this conspiracy theories around Eyes Wide Shut. Well, I don't know about The Shining. There was never any, because Kubrick died before the Eyes Wide Shut was complete. That's why people suspect that there's all the suspicion that there were things taken out of the final cut because he died.
Well, Rogan had one of the producers of that movie on his show, right? And he was explaining.
Think it was a producer.
It was somebody who was involved in making that movie.
I don't think it was someone. I think it was someone who knew someone, but I don't think it was directly involved because
I could have sworn it was. Man,
it's one of those things. Like I wish I had known this, because when my dad made Alexander, the video monitor guy, right? So the guy that sets up.
Which one was Alexander?
With Colin Farrell and Angelina Jolie, about Alexander the Great.
Oh, okay.
So the guy that ran the video village and the video monitor had done Eyes Wide Shut. Now, he would know. He would know.
Was it Roger Avery?
Yeah, Roger Avery, exactly.
Okay.
So Avery is coming from a secondhand account. It's a rumor. That's why I said I would have loved to ask.
Is he still alive?
Video monitor guy. If he knew, if you could find him, you could ask him, was there footage that you saw, because you're monitoring, you're obviously you're monitoring the monitors, if there was footage that stands out to you that was taken out of the cut. Mm-hmm. Because then, because people get all this 20 minutes was cut out, and they were going to show more of, everything from, I've heard reptilians to like children. I mean, you get all these like rumors, and it just gets kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. But you want to get to someone like the scriptwriter who wrote a book about it. He never said anything was like drastically different. Mm-hmm. So, you have to find someone that really was there that would know.
Well, yeah, the astronauts that went on the Apollo missions also wrote books about that.
That's a question, isn't it? Well, they're Masons, so
they are Masons.
You wonder about the Masonic nature of the operation. Mm-hmm. And I always wonder, look, to me, the moon landing, I always say, look, I think we went to the moon. I don't think we went with the technology that they showed you. That's my stand on it. That we have much more advanced ships and craft. And what they showed us, the little tin can kind of stuff, is for public consumption.
I think if we went to the moon, I think it's possible we went to the moon, but I don't think it's possible that footage is real.
Well, you've seen the Bart Sabrell's documentary, where they are supposed to be 2 days out or 3 days out, and they pull back the camera and they're just in the upper atmosphere or something, in the stratosphere. Basically, they're not. You've seen that?
I think so.
It's the what really happened on the way to the moon.
I've seen the movie. I don't know if I remember the exact moment you're talking about, though.
Yeah, it's like, it's part of the great reveal is he's got this NASA footage.
Oh, where they're in the capsule and they pull out.
Yeah,
it's like
and they shoot from like at the back of the capsule. I think it's what really happened on the way to the moon. I think it's even on YouTube.
A funny thing happened on the
way to the moon, and they're basically at the back of the shuttle, like shooting out the window, and so the Earth looks really small in the window.
Yeah,
and then they open the aperture. And like they basically stopped recording. Or they thought they stopped recording. Mm-hmm. They stopped broadcasting. They opened the aperture, and you can see that the Earth is really big outside the window.
It's like taking up the whole entire window.
Exactly.
It's not just a little sphere.
Yeah.
Sphere.
If we could find it, it'd be cool.
So we showed it on the show, on the podcast. I've actually had Bart in here with Charlie Duke
Oh, really?
One of the last Apollo astronauts to walk on the moon. There's only like 3 that are alive, and he's one of them. And it was a complete shit show. Bart, you know, it was not a good combination of personalities, first of all. I don't really think we got anywhere. I was not convinced by either of them.
Yeah.
I wasn't convinced that Bart was right, and I was not convinced by Charlie Duke that they actually went to the moon.
Right.
He was kind of a broken record. He kind of just saying, like, if I didn't go to the moon, how did I get all these moon rocks? You know, one of the biggest problems with the thing was the radiation. You know, what's one of Bart's big points in his documentary is the Van Allen radiation belts.
Yes.
He's saying that human beings wouldn't be able to survive passing through that back and forth with that thin little layer of aluminum. And because I guess the Soviets sent like dogs and stuff through those radiation belts, none of them survived. Like, and even a monkey, I think, like no human being, he believes, has ever survived passing through that. And there's even videos we pulled up of Von Braun giving presentations on the Van Allen radiation belt, saying like, and there's other astronauts,
even recent.
There's modern astronauts that talk about like we need to solve the problem of radiation before we send people this far out into space. Yeah. And we showed those videos to Charlie Duke, and I said, Charlie, when you were planning on, I'm sure there was a lot of planning, right, to go to the moon. I'm no expert, but I'm sure there was a hefty amount of planning that you guys had to go through, right? And he's like, yes. I'm like, so what sort of preparation did you guys go through, or what did they at least warn you about when it comes to the radiation belts? He said they never discussed them.
That makes no sense.
I know.
Did he ask him about how the stars look on the moon?
I did. I don't remember what he said about the stars. So what I understand is about the stars is like they could see it with the naked eye, but with the exposure of the cameras, because the surface of the moon is so bright, if you expose for the moon, you're going to lose the stars.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm sure to the naked eye, they'd be like...
It must have been insane, right?
Well, that's what I was curious. Like,
yeah.
Be like
so when I asked him, I was like, can you just walk me through what was going through your mind the moment you opened the door and you walked on the moon for the first time? And he just said, excitement, just exciting. I'm on the moon. It was exciting. And I'm like, man, if I walked to the moon, I'd have more words than exciting.
Man, right?
You know, that's just what I feel. I don't know.
I've walked the Himalayas and I've had like surreal experiences just being at, 15, 20,000 feet.
Right? Yeah. So this is the video that you were referring to earlier of the.
No, this is from the first. This is from the first Apollo.
Apollo 11. Right?
11, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're supposed to be like 2 or 3 days out at this point.
Yeah. And say there's another window hatch over there.
Well, I don't know if that's a hatch or just a light. It looks like a light.
I think it's a hatch. Oh. We actually pulled up a 3D model of that capsule. And there's a hatch there.
Yeah, so there's supposed to be the Earth. So that looks like a light, right? So
that does look like a light.
That's supposed to be the Earth. That is the Earth. But it's supposed to be like far away, right? Because we're 2-3 days out.
All that black around it on the border. Yeah.
Open up the aperture.
So he believes there was a transparency in front of that window that like made it look like it was the actual full shape of the Earth.
Yeah, this is the light hitting the edge of the windowsill.
Yeah. So yeah, you're seeing shit in front of it. You can tell like how's the camera? And he explains in the audio of this video how he says we have the camera pushed up against the glass, I believe. And then you hear somebody saying talk.
Yes.
There's like a delay.
Oh yeah, there's definitely the fact that we could transmit all the way from the moon to the phone of the president's phone. I mean, look, I'm more interested by the black programs, or like the secret program, secret space program kind of stuff, like the Gary McKinnon hacking. Remember the Gary McKinnon story, hacking our NASA and basically like seeing these craft that are in the sky. And this is the kind of stuff that resonates more with me of how we're going to travel through space, right? Very advanced propulsion systems. We're probably at, I don't know if we've achieved fusion. I would imagine that's feasible, but it would not be disclosed to the private sector or to the public. And I mean, it's the kind of stuff that I saw like before the show. I told you, like the night of the Palisades Fire.
Yeah.
It was, so the Palisades fires start in LA, and basically, I mean, you knew it was being set up because we had just come off of the heaviest rainfall like in decades. Like literally LA was like, because we always have to worry about like droughts and stuff and whatnot. So like we'd been coated with rain. And then for 9 months, they stopped cloud seeding. They stopped the cloud seeding programs, which are acknowledged, cloud seeding, right?
I didn't know that was happening in LA.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So they stopped the cloud seeding program. So basically from like March or whatever, it was like 9 months till January of 25. So from like March or so, no rain. So we're nowhere in a dry spell. We know we're now in a drought. And it's January. And the Santa Anas start kicking in. Now every year we get 3 or 4 Santa Anas a year. It's normal. What's normal.
A Santa Ana?
Santa Ana winds are eastern winds coming from the desert.
Okay.
Drawing dry, like basically blowing dry air, and they can get fierce. And it's like everyone who lives in Southern California knows the Santa Anas, and you know what's coming with it. So you know that it's like a fire hazard. Like it's just like clockwork. So the fact that you've got this sort of this perfect brew, right, of dry Santa Ana winds coming fast. In this case, they get up to 100 miles an hour or something, which is pretty crazy.
100?
Well, I can't remember if it would hit 100, but it was blowing hard, right? Wow. It's blowing really hard. And so, yeah, basically we've got this perfect storm. All it takes is a little fire. And apparently, that there was like an arsonist that they claim like started it. But
I heard it was Spencer Pratt that started it.
You've been watching too much Democrat CNN. But the point is that like we knew, you know what's coming, right? The fire department, everyone knows what's coming. So the fact that there's pretending to be caught unawares is completely not hogwash, because every couple years, since like 20, what was it? The Santa Susana fire, where they blew up, like they basically burned down like an old nuclear station and looked like a mushroom cloud over LA. And I took off. I'm like, I don't know what people are breathing right now, but I'm not going to breathe it. I went east to Palm Springs. But the point is, you can see it like clockwork. They are burning these areas, the Paradise Fire, the Malibu fire. Like it's just coming, right? It's just coming nonstop. And so that night, basically after the fires just started, the winds are blowing bad. I was at a dinner like south of Santa Monica. So I'm driving north, my friend's driving, and we're going up Sepulveda, which is right next to the 405, going from south to north. And I swear to you, we're driving at night, a streak of light appears across the entire sky, but it was a streak. Like you could see, like it cut the sky. And it's just like a light from east heading west, and we hear a boom, almost like a sonic boom of energy with the light. Basically, we see the streak and we feel the sonic boom of energy almost like shake the car, and it's like it was a big car, it was like an SUV, and I was like, what was that? And then she's like driving, so she looks up and she's like, there's like some kind of like craft or something, and it's like she couldn't identify what it was, but it was moving fast enough to give us to shake the car,
right?
And then I don't know, I saw some videos.
Interesting, it made a loud sound.
Well, it's the power. It's like a sonic boom, like of the energy of something moving that fast, right?
Right.
And I just I don't know. I saw some video from like various of the stations that were covering it that looked like something like a little light was moving around the fires, and almost like it was, you could say crazy, but like setting like lasers to like start the fires, like to hit the what I would imagine is they would have hit the some of those power cables and spark them, and to basically perpetuate the fire.
Whoa, that's crazy.
It makes sense. If you want a fire, it makes sense. Like I said, these things to me, it's like the Maui fire. Like you gotta make sure that these things burn the area out. If you're looking to buy it up en masse, which is, kind of what's happening. Buy up, cheap property, build out a smart city, whatever it is, that they're doing.
So what do you think those lights were?
No, I think it was a craft.
A craft.
I think it was one of these craft that, are off books, kind of like people talk about a lot, the triangle craft, the TR3s they're called, I think. They basically, you ever heard of a TR3?
No.
They're like triangle-shaped craft that
like Phoenix Lights type thing.
No, these are ours. These are like government, like space, like secret space program kind of stuff. Black Triangle craft. Yeah, they seem to be like a very advanced stealth bomber. I mean, remember, they didn't announce the stealth bomber to what, the first Gulf War, I think.
Right.
Until then, if you saw a stealth bomber, you'd been like, "That's an alien ship."
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I just think TR3 is advanced, advanced craft.
So that thing right there is what it looks like, the TR3.
Yeah, that's the one that people have seen a lot of.
Whoa.
Like most identified. I'm not saying that's what I saw. I'm just saying that that's, to me, an example of like one of these black program craft that we've got.
That's wild. Yeah, I've had people on here tell me that they think that even the Phoenix Lights things were government balloons and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, we had the drones showing up all over the East Coast, and no one still has told us what those were.
Oh yeah,
right.
I forgot about that.
In 24, they were all over the East Coast, the drones. And like,
wasn't that supposed to be Iran?
Yeah, we didn't shoot them down because we were scared of the Chinese. I mean,
or China, was that what it was?
Yeah, it was like, but I'm like, okay, so we don't shoot them down. Why? What's going on?
Yeah, the Chinese balloon. Oh my God. Yeah, it's too much craziness happening in the news cycle to pay attention to.
You kind of have to just allow things to like reach you. That's what I feel like. The information that's important will reach you. And a lot of it is distraction. A lot of it is designed to like take away our energy and distract us and keep us feeling disempowered and weak. And that's why, I like to just come back to like things that I can affect in my reality, walk my path, and just don't get too caught up with the things I can't change.
I mean, it's like with technology and the media and like how we have so much access to everything instantaneously. It's like a double-edged sword, right? It's like on one hand, it's making people more aware of like the evil and the corruption that's happening around the world with world leaders and with governments and stuff that people like you and me want nothing to do with. And it's probably making us more united at some level, at least people that are aware of it.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, it is the perfect tool for governments that want to keep secrets because they no longer have to worry about keeping stuff secret because now they can just flood the zone with bullshit. And it's impossible to pick the wheat from the chaff, right? It's impossible to pick the needle out of the haystack of what's real, what's not.
They've always been doing this. I mean, this is Psy-War. This is psychological operations. I mean, imagine the only difference is they used to have, 3 channels and now there's 3 million. But so now you have a little bit more diversity in choosing your vector of where you want to, get your information from or try to make sense of the world through. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's very frustrating. I mean, even being in California, right? We're just in LA seeing, typical election shenanigans, which I think 2020 was like a big wake up call for people to realize like, yeah, this is the strategy. It's basically, wait till the election day, find out how many votes you need, and then just basically mail in as many after the fact. Oh, we need 50,000, we get 50,000. You get 40,000 from Skid Row, we get 40,000 from Skid Row. No ID. Everyone's got a ballot.
Yeah.
Even illegals. It's like just flood them. Just flood the zone. And it really makes this country feel like a banana republic when we should be using a blockchain or something to identify like every voter should have like a blockchain number and should be able to go and see their vote right there on the blockchain. Oh, that's my number. That's my vote. It should be reflected publicly.
Yeah. And then, how many people don't vote, right? Like how many people I feel like the people that are most aware of this stuff, that are paying the most attention, the younger folks, don't even fucking vote. It's only the older folks who are more tapped into mainstream news like Fox and CNN that are the ones that are going out and voting. Like, I think the perfect example of that would be this recent Kentucky race with the Senate race in Kentucky with Thomas Massey and then the other guy.
Oh, right.
Where like every commercial that I guess they just spent like $13-14 million on that race in Kentucky. And then if you watch the guy's commercials that was running against Massey, he never says a word in any of the commercials. All it is Trump talking. It's videos of Trump saying, "This guy's great, war hero, strong handshake, vote for him." Yeah. And then at the end of the commercial, it goes, "I'm Ed Galray and I approve this message." That's the whole thing. And the guy won because those are the people that vote, the people that watch that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't vote simply because I think it's all a racket.
Yes.
It would be look, we've got a a system where both the Republicans are supposed to be limiting spending, but they spend just as much as the Democrats ultimately. Well, at least on the national level, right? We're talking about like the national debt, and it just continues to grow and grow and grow, no matter who's in office. At the state level, I don't know. I know that California is a horribly run state, and it's been run by one party, really, at least since Schwarzenegger. So, it should be an indication that there's something wrong, but it's like, they just, how do you say it? Like they swap out the tires.
They swap out the tires, yeah.
That's pretty much it, The car is broken down, but they swap out the tires.
Well, California is interesting too, because you have like so much craziness happening with like the homeless issues and everything else. And at the same time, it's what is it? California, the number 3 GDP of any country in the world. Like all the
about 6 or something. 6, I think.
It's insane because of all those giant tech companies.
It's a huge amount of revenue. Don't know where it goes. It's one of those mysteries, kind of like the New York City budget.
Yeah,
where does it all go?
Yeah, and it's also very fascinating how all those tech people are. Well, especially Silicon. When were we in San Francisco? That was like 4 years ago, something like that.
San Francisco.
Yeah, we were in San Francisco, and this was my first time ever being in San Francisco, like 4 years ago, something like that. And like I had not been aware of the fact that you have to leave your car unlocked so that people they won't break your windows. Like the dude we were visiting, he's like, just leave your rental car, don't leave anything in there, leave the door unlocked, because they're gonna get in one way or the other. It's easier for them to open the door than to break your window.
Like road warrior.
It's crazy, dude. And we just found purses laying on the street, looted. Apparently they're trying to fix that now. But the point
it's election season. They gotta make it look better.
Right. Or when they brought Xi. When Xi came to San Francisco, they cleaned it up big time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
window dressing.
I find it interesting that you have like all these tech oligarchs like talking spiritual now.
Yeah.
They're all getting spiritual.
They're into the spiritual war.
Yeah. No, and you got Peter Thiel's more into the Antichrist stuff, but he's like, trying to project himself as being some big Christian church there apparently, where all the tech people are now like converting to Christianity, and all these big tech investors are there's one tech company that there's one company that invests in tech companies. I forget what the name of it now. But yeah, they're all involved in like preaching the Bible to people in Silicon Valley, which is very wild.
It's interesting. Are they bringing revelations to bear? Is that it's kind of, it makes you wonder, right? Like, if like they have to do whatever they can to justify the total surveillance society.
Yeah.
Right. And, it's like, I look at things as let's say the Uniparty, maybe a little bit of correlating between like those that are totally globalists and those that are more like, hey, we want to see America sustain as a nation, as a republic. I think that's kind of, to me, the real heart of the battle. That's what, Trump is supposed to represent, is more of the nationalist impulse against the globalist impulse, right? And then, but in the meantime, they're all moving towards like, total surveillance society and digitization. I mean, whether or not hopefully Trump has been opposed to this idea of like the digital currency, right? The digitization of like all currency and whatnot. But that's kind of where things are going on the tech side of it, right? It's like it's a total digital identification. We all have digital avatars. We all are tracked and monitored, and our habits. I mean, everything is known and knowable. So it's like
someone was just telling me that TSA just made their TSA is making a big change where they're going to require people to do mandatory facial scanning now if you want to travel.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen that coming. I mean, they basically, for in the last few years, ever since COVID, it's been like, I go abroad and I mean, I've accepted it because I understand like that I have some level of a public figure. So it's like, okay, that's my public face. But when you want to fly, like they'll just do facial recognition and they don't even look at your passport now. That was a few years ago. I noticed that.
I've noticed those at airports, but I've always...
The craziest thing to me actually was coming back and not having to go through customs. I was like, wow, It's been kind of cool. Like the old days.
That's already happening?
Most of the time. I mean, been through Florida a lot, like Miami and stuff.
Yeah.
There was no customs.
What?
Yeah. And no customs declaration, which is interesting to me. You know, like how they used to give out the forms, like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen those in ages.
Really? I feel like we mean when you're laying there, the flight attendant comes and passes you out those forms.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in ages.
Interesting. Maybe I just haven't noticed.
I think it's all facial recognition now, so they just know you. They're like, okay, we know who you are. We're just tracking you, and that's. I don't know. I mean, and so like, and then you even see like in going to Miami Airport, they'll be like, they have the cameras. They say like 5 miles out. They're like, they start the surveillance and stuff.
Yeah.
They notify you. I've accepted. I look at things like you have to understand that we're all playing publicly, like public commerce. All the commerce is public, right? Everything, like people think that their money is theirs. Well, no, the cash, all that can be seized.
It's all digital.
Can all be seized. No, it's not just the digital. It's a Federal Reserve note. It belongs to the Fed. It's a promissory note.
Right.
It's not constitutional money. Constitutional money is gold and silver. Mm-hmm. The other stuff is just.
Right, but money in your bank account
can be seized.
Essentially, yeah, it can be seized.
Seized. The bank can keep. The bank can do a bail-in. They can take it. They can mess with it. I mean, if they want, they can mess with you, right? Like, you name it. So you have to understand, like, there's a public face to all this commerce. We have to regain this. We have to regain ourselves, as the private person, not the citizen. Not beholden to that government commercial game. Essentially, because government is over all of it. It's all government, over the private sector, but entwined with it, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's why these big contracts are going out to, the companies that become the $1 trillion companies or whatnot, the multi-billion-dollar companies. Yeah. They're getting big contracts with government, but ultimately it's government. It's government, and behind it is the private central banking system lending money to the government to be the tax collector. That's the government's job. It's there to collect taxes, right? To pay back the banks.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess at some point it's just futile to fight it. You just kind of like got to go with it.
Well, that's why I say focus, prioritize your private side, your private life, to understand like you as a spiritual being. I believe like that's what matters. Like get right with your creator, get right with yourself, focus on, what you can do in your own life. Because ultimately, again, this is a much bigger game of commerce and, states and empires and things that, transcends any of us.
Yeah.
That's why I just went back to like the last thing I did was just writing a book about 10 things to learn as humans, just to be human in a world that's like increasingly transactional, increasingly disorienting and disassociative. Like, let's just come back to like the myths. I went back to the myths.
Back to the myths. Back to the ancient texts.
Yeah, the threads, exactly. The threads that we have like, whether it's the stories or the myths, the things that like, whether it's, biblical, whether it's Greek, whether it's, Asian, Buddhist, Hindu, it's like there are certain stories that transcend time, right? Why? Because they have lessons for us.
It's definitely interesting diving into a lot of that stuff. It definitely gives you a very unique perspective when you actually read it versus like listening to the distilled version of it, stories that you hear like on the internet and stuff like that, What led you into this Freemasonry stuff?
Curiosity. I mean, I've been studying, because like going back to like what we were talking about at the beginning, the alternative version of U.S. history, right? So I was, my dad was giving me books to read, and I was just like, checking out his library, and I was still in high school, and getting books like Jim Marr's Rule by Secrecy about the Templars and the Masons and things like that, and David Icke's work, and all these different secret societies, and the world of the esoteric. So I carried that through college. I was really just studying history and learning everything I could, and at a certain point you get to like this kind of this door where it's like either you open the door and you start to enter the realm of like the esoteric and actually like invite the spiritual path and open up to these things that must be lived, you can no longer read. You have to actually live it.
Yeah.
And so, so that started in 2009. That my friend and I met this guy who was friends with my dad, and like he and I went ghost hunting together, and we would go to like
as one does.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you're in Jersey, in haunted New Jersey, there's.
Is Jersey known for lots of ghosts?
You never read Haunted NJ? That was like a magazine.
I've heard there's like more. I heard there's more cemeteries there than like anywhere.
It's kind of crazy. It's not that many people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, I guess Jersey called me back. So it was Jersey, New York. We would just ghost hunt these different like abandoned mental hospitals. Greystone was a massive one. And we just, went multiple times, break in at night, find a place to park, run around till we found like an open door, And,
how old were you when you were doing this?
I mean, it was like 24, 25,
Okay.
And it was a trip, I made my first film about those. I started working on my first film. Basically, it took 3 years to get made. So in that time, when I was like ghost hunting, working on the film, I went into, basically I got initiated into Masonry. And went through that. Again, that was, it's all kind of intertwines in my consciousness.
Did you believe ghosts were real before you did that, or were you like on the fence, or were you?
No, I had the impression that there's too many stories. When you study and read and understand, like there's something happening on Earth, and the Bible talks about it, the Elohim and the fallen ones that come from the heavens and land on Mount Hermon and take female wives.
Mm-hmm.
This is the
Sumerian
the Book of Enoch.
stuff.
Well, this is Sumerian, but the Book of Enoch talks about it. The Bible references it, but they didn't let the Enoch be an official canonical book, right?
Yeah, it's all very, very, very similar to the original Sumerian shit. Like the stories. The stories definitely come from that.
Oh, I mean, the Noah story is a Sumerian text about the flood,
right?
And the king who gets chosen to survive it. But as far as the intermingling of demigods and humans, it's also Hindu. I mean, it's Greeks talk about it. Alexander's story was, the mom said that Zeus, slept with her, and that's where Alexander was born from. The son of a god, kind of like Achilles or like Hercules, right?
Yeah.
Bloodline stuff, genetic modification stuff. That, who knows? But I was anyway. So I'm of the mindset that I needed to experience multidimensionality to believe, like fully believe it. So I was open to it, and I was like, okay, let's go. And it's just at a certain point, you're just like, okay, the synchronicities become so great.
Yeah.
The experiences become extremely strange, high strangeness, I call it. And I'm going to put out this documentary, I think just for free or whatever, just because I want people to like see it for themselves, basically the footage that I got at that time, 2010, 11, 12, of possessions, of demonic phone calls, of again synchronicities, and like just things that you can't like rationally. I guess you could try to find like a logical explanation, but at a certain point you just know there's more going on here than meets the eye,
So what was the process like of going into the Church of the Freemasons?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a church in that sense, because they do honor the a lot of them are they of different faiths, right? They can be.
Are they really?
Yeah, Christian, Jewish, Muslim. My understanding of Masonry, people are like, because of my Tucker interview, they're like, you're bad mouthing Masons. I'm like, I don't say anything about Masons. I just think it's an initiatory group, right? Mm-hmm. Initiatory in the sense that they understand, like, there's something going on at a higher level. And I think higher, even like dimensionally higher, because that's something that I felt and that I've been told about, like when you do these rituals, or the ritual of just, doing the dialogue, it's a play, right? Like it's a play, and you walk to like different, the north and the south and the east and the west and all that, and like you walk to different places and you say your lines and blah blah blah. It's a play, but it's a ritual that is being observed multidimensionally, I believe, and that was why I got called right after the first initiation. The phone call was almost like literally he said, like, how did you like the meeting? This voice, it's like, how did you like the meeting? And I was like, it's an interesting game you've got, that kind of thing. But it wasn't like it wasn't answering my questions about like who you are and whatnot. It was really just telling me that they were watching me, whatever these things are. And they were watching me all the way back.
Did it just sound like a dude?
Home. It was a man's voice, and then it was a woman's voice, and she sounded more demonic than he did. Oh yeah.
Demonic how? Like you hear in the movie? Like oh wow.
Like kind of like
a witch.
What did she say? Yeah, very witchy. Don't make me show you something to really be scared about. That kind of thing.
Wow.
Very witchy. Yeah, they were just watching. I mean, they were observing. They were letting me know that they watch. It was a pretty intense time, because between that and other things that were going on, I went on Alex Jones' show at that point, like 2011. I was on for the first time on Alex's show, talking about these things, And Alex was so funny. He was just like, it's probably the NSA or the CIA. They're
That's
just
what
messing with you.
And
I'm like, listen, those guys definitely.
Those guys are definitely embedded in all the cults.
They are. Well, I mean, that's one of the theories about a lot of the alien stuff, right? Is that like they're okay. So one of the theories about it is that some of these beings, these aliens that have been showing up, are demons that have been like portals that have been opened by people like Aleister Crowley. So like, it wasn't Crowley. It was his acolytes. Hubbard from the Scientologists.
Parsons.
Hubbard and Parsons, right? So Hubbard goes on to found the Scientologists. Before he founds the Scientologists, he's working with Parsons, and Parsons is like, and I think he was writing Crowley about Hubbard. He was like enamored by Hubbard. He's like, this guy is like so thelemic. He's so willful, And Parsons had set up the OTO here, right? In Pasadena, not here, in Pasadena, in LA. And Parsons was a rocket scientist. The JPL.
Yeah.
Some people say JPL is actually not Jet Propulsion Lab. It's Jack Parsons Lives, right? So brilliant guy, ends up dying in a weird freak way that makes you wonder what really happened. He blew himself up or something, which...
Also, L. Ron Hubbard stole his wife, I think.
He did. He stole his girlfriend, or I think it became his wife.
Yeah.
But before that, they did a Babylon working. Out in the desert.
Babylon working.
Yeah, Babylon working. It's called.
What does that mean?
They were trying to like bring on, what was it? The Scarlet Woman, I think. I think they were trying to invoke the Scarlet Woman from like Book of Revelation kind of stuff. Right? Bring on the Scarlet Woman. And that becomes the girlfriend of Parsons. She shows up in their life after this. Some Marjorie, is it Marjorie Cameron or something? I can't remember. Anyway, it's an interesting story. But the point was that, Enochian Magic, which the one time I read some Enochian Magic, I got a phone call from a demon saying, "Are you a sorcerer?" So Marjorie Cameron shows up, and so anyway, this is crazy. This is wild stuff, man. I'm telling you, you start messing with this, things happen. It opens portals. But some people think, because the ritual was in 46, that it opened the door to the UFO sightings starting in 47, right before Roswell. It was like the first major wave. And then Roswell is right around July 4th,
really?
47. And so some people thought that this was actually like they were doing these workings and opening portals to these beings to come through. Anyway, there are definitely people in the military intel world that would believe believe this stuff, and that's why. Look, if you know it's there, you do find your faith. So that's why I don't scoff at people like Teal finding Christianity if it's genuine. because when you know this stuff is real, you do look for faith. You do basically look to solidify your faith in your creator, because that's the only power you've got against these things.
Yeah.
And if they look at the potential for AI as demonic, or the portals being opened by, let's say, those windows, these dark mirrors, because that's what these are. These are dark mirrors. Every phone, every screen is a dark mirror. In the old days, what did witches and conjurers work with? Dark mirrors. That's how they would invoke the spirits, in a dark mirror. Black mirror. They call them black mirrors.
Right.
But that's what we're surrounded by now, black mirrors.
So
what portals left and right, maybe.
So what is a demon? What do you think a demon actually is?
Low vibrational entity, I would say. So again, I think you can feel these things like based on the feeling it gives you. Like if something like brings like a higher, like I don't think that the demons can operate from like a place of heart and love, right? And high and up. They're going to operate from here down. So they're going to feed on our appetites, like our lesser appetites, and that's why the 7 sins, it's all like, Dante's Inferno, greed and lust and theft and murder and treachery and all that, that leads you into hell.
Okay.
Right. And then if you start to work with the heart, ask forgiveness, be aware of people that you hurt, things that you do that, that hurt others. Like you start to have more awareness, more reciprocity in relationships. Like that's where we want to be as humans, right? So the demons, I think they feed on and operate at that lower level. And when you, as a human, are operating at that level, and we all do it to some extent, but like the more we do, like the more that they can attach to that. And that's why I think that there's a lot of entities that do attach to humans. And the more you surrender to them, essentially.
Yeah.
The more
I'm reading this book about Satan right now that Jacques Vallée recommended. And it's this French book written by French Carmelite. I forget who wrote it. Some French people wrote it. And the case the book makes is that that sort of way of being, that satanic way of being, is the default mode for humanity. Like humanities are by default satanic unless you accept Jesus into your heart, and that's the only way you can get rid of it. That's what the book says.
I don't agree with that. I think that Jesus is a path and a way, but I think there's plenty of people around the world who are not satanic, who don't believe in Jesus, but are still good people. Right. In the sense that, that's kind of like the old, Jesuit, thing. Like we have to convert you heathens, otherwise, you're damned to hell, kind of thing, right? Right. But I think that Jesus is the way, in a sense of like he's an example. He's an example of like the perfected human, right? So certainly, it's a great model, to follow, to embrace, to love. But the idea that like you have to follow Jesus to be good, I don't think that's accurate. I think that people inherently know right from wrong when it comes to hurting others. Empathy. I would say that's, to me, the barometer. Yeah. Are you empathetic? Even as a kid, are you empathetic, or are you a sociopath? Are you one of those kids that like kills animals? Right. Hurts other people and like gets off on, like gets high on hurting people. Right. Or do you say like, oh, I hurt you, I'm sorry. That's the key. That's empathy.
Does Crowley or Parsons ever talk? Is there? I mean, I've never read. I haven't read anything on what they were doing back then. But do they talk about how they were able to do this? I mean, it says like sex rituals and shit like that, but like specifically, like what?
So the ritual, the Babylon working, they sing Enochian Magic. I mean, Enochian Magic, you can find books on it. Just like it's incantations that John Dee put together. The Queen Elizabeth's head sorcerer. Yeah. And that's powerful stuff. As I mentioned, I picked up one of the books in my library and I started doing. I read the incantation.
Really?
Then meditated, and 30 minutes later, I got a phone call from one of these unknown numbers. Whoa! And it was literally like this like thing coming through. Like, are you a sorcerer? And then it was like, and then it was garbled. It was really hard to understand the rest of what it said.
Did you call them?
Kept talking and talking and talking, and then it disconnected.
Did you call the number back?
It was an unknown number.
An unknown number.
Yeah. I would get these like unknown numbers or 666-666-6666 numbers. It was a wild time.
Bro, it was CIA. They were on you.
No, one of them was a ball worship. It was like a ritual. Yeah, it was one time. It was like I put it on Alex Jones because I was like, this is like I recorded it, but like they called. I was with my friend who was also the Mason, and it was 666, and it was like literally they were going like they were invoking Baal. They were like it was like they were trying to draw our energy into their ritual. It sounded like they were calling us and like talking about Baal and and these kind of chanting kind of voices, and we're just like what do you want, you know? But it's never they're never clear, you know. That's the point.
Yeah,
it's like they're trying to pull you energetically into something. That's what it feels like.
Who?
The entities.
The entities.
The entities are like, and again, I don't think all like aliens are demons. It's just there's different entities with different agendas. Some, as I said, you can feel it by the like by where you're at. Like, does it feel like it's parasitic, like it's sucking on you, or that it's like that it's dark, or does it feel loving and of God? I mean, I think that there's so many entities in this planet that we don't see, you know, that are invisible to the naked eye because we only experience like less than 1% of reality.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, I think it's very interesting, you know, that all of these people like Jack Parsons and L. Ron, not necessarily, I won't discard him, but like Jack Parsons and Werner von Braun and all these people that were like the foundation of the space program were like so involved in this non-material sort of spiritual crazy stuff like this, right?
Was von Braun?
I believe von Braun was, yeah. I mean, he was definitely like one of the, wasn't he also connected to Parsons somehow? And like,
I don't remember about von Braun.
I know that there was lots of Nazis that were very much into this stuff, and they were like allegedly creating some kind of like very advanced esoteric technology.
Well, that goes back to like the SS cult,
yeah,
like the Death Head, right? The thing like Himmler was really into the Grail lore, and they had the castle, and they had like this was the Black Sun, or they had like this ritualistic markings, and they seem to have been doing some black magic.
But like my overall point is like it seems to be like there's way more to some of the peak of technology and the space program and the history of the space program. There's way more to it than just the basic materialist view of science, right? There's definitely some crazy magic
because I don't
going
think
on.
we understand what space is,
right?
You know, and this kind of goes to like the question of like it'd be fascinating to go up to the space station even, or just just out of the atmosphere and just experience what space is, how it affects consciousness.
Yeah.
Because like I said, just hiking in the Himalayas, like my consciousness was like, I felt like I was walking with like Eden or something, like some like not Eden, but like some pre-diluvian world, before the floods, before humans came. It's like the mountains are just like have this ancient power to them.
Yeah.
And then, what is space? It's really mysterious. It's not. I don't think it's a vacuum. I think it's probably filled with like plasma. You never heard this? The plasma science, like the whole, like what's it called? Like lightning bolts of the gods and all the plasma physics.
Remind me.
Yeah, just basically plasma is like it's called like the fourth state of matter.
Right.
So it's
I'm
like
familiar with what plasma
yeah,
is,
so it's ionically charged. Yeah, but the idea is that like there's literally like plasma across space, and it's like, so it's not an empty vacuum. It's filled with plasma.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole physics around it, like in how, like explaining like how the universe is designed differently than what the current cosmology wants everyone to believe, that it's sort of like a big bang expansion and like leading into like to heat death, right? Like currently it's like, it's just expanding to death, right? Everything's going to get so far apart that it's all going to end up in like, in a death of the universe.
Right. Yeah.
Plasma physics has a completely different cosmology.
Well, like that we're trying to fit the universe into like a different ontology, right? Is what's going on. Like there's just the idea, I've had some people explain this to me before, how like just the idea that the universe had to have started at one point and is going to end at one point and was created at a time and a place by a single person or entity is kind of a fallacy, right? Because there's constantly, we know for a fact that There are planets constantly living, being born and dying. The same thing with solar systems, and galaxies and universes are constantly being destroyed and emerging all over the place. So like the idea, like that idea that this is like a linear thing is kind of a fallacy.
It's biblical.
It's biblical.
It goes back to the Bible story, and that's why, it makes you wonder, was the Bible written really in Babylon? When the Jews were in captivity in Babylon, is that really where the Bible was created? The Old Testament.
Right. Yeah.
Because again, it's like a mixture, as you said, like it's a mixture of some Sumerian myths, some Egyptian stuff, but there's definitely this idea of like, God creating the universe and then essentially like reaching to this crescendo, this twilight of the gods moment of the apocalypse or Armageddon, right? And then the return of the king. You really do wonder what this is. Are we just, how do you say, are we going to play out the mythology that we've chosen?
Yeah. How deep do you think like the world leaders or like the upper echelon of bankers and secret societies that control the world are really into this kind of stuff?
I think the ones that are in the know are very into it. I think the ones that are like dynastic, the ones who count, like who actually know their bloodlines, who actually like care about title and they're initiated. So as I mentioned, like the Masons are a vast initiatory group. Once you're there, I think you get selected into more like paths get you get selected into more like secret groupings or or whatnot. You can end up with in the OTO, for example, which is like the Crowley kind of sex and blood magic kind of stuff. You can end up with the Templars. You could end up with any number. I mean, there's so many, especially in Europe. I mean, Europe is filled with like the old dynastic bloodline families that I think have that's always been the rumor. Like they're much worse when it comes to like the cannibalism of kids and the kind of like the blood sacrifice kind of stuff. That it's much darker in Europe than here.
Really?
Man,
yeah, this is all kind of this whole conversation we're having is like a conversation that you'd be laughed out of a room for having 2 years ago, right? And it's like now that the Epstein files have come out and like all of these things have been, I mean, for whatever, like you could say validated. I mean, the government hasn't really acknowledged any of it. They just kind of dropped it on us, and we're left to fend for ourselves, to rationalize it for ourselves.
Totally.
But like. The fact that was dropped on us is pretty crazy because you can't dismiss it anymore.
Yeah, it's how to make sense of it. I mean, I had to deal with like making sense of this stuff back in like the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah,
when I was first reading about the Franklin scandal and whatnot, and that's why I did the Best Kept Secret docuseries to try to give people like a little bit of a thread or a path to make sense of a world where governments. Politicians are involved in the trafficking and protecting it because the politicians are themselves either involved or compromised.
Yes.
Kind of with the drug traffic. I mean, I literally touched on all these different threads. The issue of like how we are mind controlled through media, through storytelling, right? To basically like think of these things as fantastical or far out, or they drop little hints like in the adrenochrome in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, right? Where he's tripping and he's seeing the dinosaurs, reptilians essentially, right?
Yeah.
But it's coming from such a far out source that you're like not taking it very seriously, except Hunter Thompson was a very good journalist. Because as crazy as gonzo as he was, he really was like immersing himself in all these things. In fact, he was even part of like Nixon's he was part of like Nixon's campaign, like he was a journalist like covering the campaign. I mean, he was a serious journalist. He was just crazy because he opened himself to like everything, and ultimately killed himself because I think he knew too much. And that's, well, I mean, going back to like the nature of like the book, the 10 Things to Learn, it's like we are in the world having eaten the apple. We are in the world of mind. And everything that we think has to have some expression in our reality. So we actually have a lot of power. But we have to start with like recognizing the power of our thoughts and where our attention's going. Right. Because all these things can only occur because we're allowing them to occur. You know, the dark stuff that's going on, we're allowing it. We accept it. And if we didn't, we would have stopped it. Collectively. We collectively are accepting these things.
Yeah.
Sadly to say. And people will be like outraged and be like, how can we accept it? It's like, no, thankfully we're starting to recognize what we've accepted. Because for so long, people turned a blind eye. For so long, culturally, like you said, it was, you laugh. Someone talks about something like, you know, human sacrifice.
Yeah.
They'd laugh. So basically, by ridiculing, you're accepting, rather than inquiring, investigating, saying, wait, no, I want to know more. Wait, this isn't okay. It's not acceptable. We have to stop calling people crazy for having, you know, seen things or observed things or learned things that are uncomfortable. Only when we face the darkness are we going to be able to shine light on it, and that will bring it to an end.
Yeah.
But as long as we try to be, you know, as they've maintained the polite society around all this stuff, you know, whether it's pedophilia, whether it's, you know, darker crimes, it's like so much has been hidden.
Yeah.
And now it's really time to like be like David, who's like, you know, transgressed, you know, he's King David. Remember he took he basically impregnated a married woman. He sent her husband off to die, basically kills the guy so he can hide his transgression.
Yeah.
Guess what? He's got to get right with God. I'm like, that's where we are. We have to get right with our Creator and really acknowledge the reality that we have co-created collectively, and stop making it them, because that's always the excuse. They're the bad ones there. Yeah, but have you done the homework? Have you done your inner work? Are you spreading light? Are you doing, you know, are you being as good as you can every day? Even just in a small way? Because if we all if we all clean up our own mess, the reality will change.
Interesting. You think you could have like a bottom-up effect on the world?
It's the only way. Be the change you want to see in the world. It's the only way. You can't change other people.
So if we all start meditating and saying kumbaya and getting right with ourselves, with our communities, with our families, this can somehow stop the absolute chaos we see happening on the global stage somehow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Changes the priorities. It changes the priorities.
I like it.
Yeah, because it's the things we need to learn. We all fail. We all have, you know, we all fall. We all have our, you know, our falls from grace, our, you know, our breakdowns, right? But like, what happens after that? You know, after that, we have to learn to surrender, to cry, to be transformed, right? Because that's how, like, then we recognize what we actually, like, what our priorities are. You know, what do we actually care about? And when we realize what we care about, we also realize what we hate. And so hating is not a bad thing because it's an energy force. But we have to like learn, like, okay, you can be like Hitler and try to like hate, you know, I'm going to hate and I'm going to exterminate that which I hate. Or you can be like Gandhi and be like, no, I'm going to not hate the person. I'm going to hate the system, and I'm going to work to change the system. You know, and even when someone kills him, he still forgives the guy that kills him.
Yeah.
You know, he literally is like Christ. He's like, I forgive you.
When you describe that sucking feeling of like the parasitic demonic force that you call, I feel like that is something that is inherent with, and that comes with money and power, because it seems like the people who have the most money and the most power are the ones that sort of lose empathy.
They're the most afraid.
Yeah.
It's the thing is, like, you know, when you got an image, it's like if you have an image to maintain or you have money to maintain, right? And you realize like the power and the responsibility. Well, now you have to, if you know, when it comes to the wealth, you can live with that reptilian brain, which is like our root, right, of our brain. It's like that ancient fear. I have to strike before the other one strikes me. It's stupid game theory, you know. It's like screw the other guy before he screws you kind of mentality.
Yeah.
You know? You end up sociopathic.
And this is a story that's as old as the written word, right? I mean, we have these same stories. It's like, it's so spooky to me how like some of the stories that you read in this Epstein files parallel some of the shit happening with like ancient Roman empires, you know, like Tiberius and
the Romans. Look, I mean, there's an interesting question at how much was picked up from the East through the nature of like once the Republic fell. Right, it was like it turns into an empire, and they go eastward. And who was it? Was it one of the writers? Basically said, if you look in the names now of all the Roman families, they're all basically from the east. We've been bringing Babylonian people basically into our empire. It's no longer traditional Rome. It's now been like we've adopted Eastern ways, Babylonian ways, practices, and more hedonism. And I mean, the stories around Capri where was it Tiberius was in Capri where he had his villa?
Capri, yeah.
And that's where like he would have like the boys and you know they threw people off the cliff, I think, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the debauchery. I mean, it became and then you know they became hedonistic. They operated with cults. And
there was an archaeologist who excavated that island, and they found just like off the edge of that cliff, just tons of skeletons of children.
Yeah, and so they have like cults of power. So like if you're not initiated into the right cult, you won't know, you know, the kind of dark stuff. How do you say? You won't have power in that society. You have to be initiated. So it was, you know, how do you say? Yeah, it was not a great model. I mean, people are, you know, they built an infrastructure. They had water, you know, piping and like, you know, some amazing what do you call it? The water aqueducts and things like this, and some great architecture. But no, and then they basically ended up relying on mercenaries, and gradually it collapsed. They had to. I mean, the interesting question is like Catholicism is very much a Roman adoption, right? It's like the continuation of the Roman Empire by turning the emperor into a pope and the Roman Senate into the Roman Curia. And so ironically, the Roman Empire has survived in the form of the Catholic Church. Because that was the only way to survive. You know, they didn't have the moral impetus, but they could find a spiritual impetus to survive. And now the Catholic Church is still one of the wealthiest groups in the world. I don't know if they're the wealthiest, maybe the wealthiest, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then like, you know, also like some of the crazy, disgusting shit that was happening back then that they were doing that makes no sense to us today, but they probably believed helped them some way. Like drinking they would have like old ailing aristocrats who were like dying of some sort of disease. They would slit the throat of some young 20-year-old warrior and drink his blood.
Yeah, but we still have that. We still, I mean, now we know the power of like, you know, how do you say, of like blood transfusions from young people? Isn't that like a new thing now?
Oh yeah, there's a guy who's famous for it. Brian Johnson. There's this guy who like thinks his goal is to live for as long as possible, and he like started out, I think, taking the blood of his kid, injecting it into himself, I believe.
Yeah. Well, it's
just fucking bonkers.
It's Saturn. It's Saturn. So what did Saturn, or Kronos in the Greek myth, right? Saturn, Kronos. What is he? You know, he's the lord of time, and he's unwilling to transfer power. I mean, that's the nature of time. It's like it has to surrender, right? There's a circularity to it. It's a cycle, but he refuses. So he eats his own children. Remember? And then eventually his wife gives him a stone instead of Zeus.
Right.
So he eats the stone, and Zeus is able to grow up, become strong enough, poisons his father. His father throws up his other children, and that so the Greek gods, that whole pantheon of, what was it, like 9 gods or whatever, they are born from, you know, basically Zeus freeing them, and then they throw Kronos into the pits of Hades, essentially, or Tartarus or somewhere, and he gets overthrown eventually, you know, because you can't stop what is inevitable, you know, the passing of the torch, the process of, you know, of accepting a new role. He doesn't want to, you know, he doesn't want to give up the crown. He wants to, you know, a lot of these boomers are like that. They want to be the king forever.
Yeah.
But
yeah, man.
It will never happen.
That painting is one of the most fucking dark, demonic, scariest fucking paintings ever. So that thing eating the children.
It's
the god who eats children or whatever.
It's the Spanish painter. what's his name? Of why am I blanking? I love his work. He also did like a Baphomet looking goat head like demon, and he did some fascinating stuff.
Is that Francis?
With a G.
Goya?
Goya, yeah.
Goya?
Yeah. See, I got Sebastian Gorka's name in my head. I'm like, not Gorka, Goya. Okay.
Yeah.
See what they do? There's too many names to keep track of. But Goya did other paintings with like the goat head. And right there, like the Black Sabbath out there on the left. There's the goat head. That's like that's an interesting one. And then also, see this? They're having like a Sabbath and she's offering the skeleton child. What is going on? This is the goat. Yeah, that's Goya. And it makes you really wonder. And then go to the far. That's a great shot from the when Napoleon, when they were rebelling against Napoleon. Napoleon's brother was running Spain.
Yep.
In the 1800s. But then on the far left there's another. Is that another satanic thing on the left above?
Oh, up here.
Yeah, that one. What's going on here? That's another Black
You
Sabbath.
touching a little bit more?
Oh, that's as far as it
Oh,
goes.
what is going on
Witch's
there?
Coven. With
Those
the bats,
owls?
bats and stuff.
Bats?
Or owl? No, you're right. They're owls. Maybe owls. There's like a human. There's a human. That's a demon, like an incubus in the sky.
When was this painted? When was this created? Does it say, Steve?
So it's probably around 1800.
Yeah.
So one of my friend of mine told me she was doing research in the Spanish. So Goya was Spanish, right? She was doing research in the Spanish museum, like a national museum in Madrid, I think. And she was like there at night, like, and she like started hearing these, like something like echoing. And she got curious and she went off to like an area that was roped off. And she basically like got close enough to like see, she said there was like a bunch of cloaked people and they were doing some kind of incantation, drawing upon the energy of paintings in the museum. Like Ghostbusters 2 style.
Jesus.
And that would be the kind of thing that, again, royals would have access to. People of, it's not just the kings and queens. I mean, obviously all these countries in Europe still have kings and queens, but they've got the princes, they've got the dukes, they've got the titles and stuff. That's why I say there's a lot of stuff that goes on still, but, you know, under the guise of like it's a democracy or whatever. But you know, if you're really in power, you don't want to claim it. You want to be behind the scenes.
I had this guy on who's a coroner in France, and he does autopsies on ancient people. So on the remains of ancient people. Like he did work on the remains of Picasso, Napoleon, and he was also explaining that there's these paintings that were going around that were allegedly painted using the blood of King Louis the 13th or something like this. And or using his heart, because his heart allegedly was like sold on the black market. Someone took his heart and someone allegedly bought his heart. And the story was that his heart was used to paint this painting. Remember this painting, Steve? And so he did an examination of the painting and he tested the red pigment in the painting, like took a sample of it, put it under microscopes and tested it, all that. And sure as shit, like he tested the DNA and all that stuff. It was the actual heart fibers in the red pigment of the painting that belonged to that king.
I'm not surprised.
Insane stuff, what they were doing, man. And then he also showed us, have you seen is this it? Is this, this one's actually in the Louvre. So yeah, if you look at the red pigment on her dress, that's from the fucking heart of which king? Let's get the king right. Oh, there it was. It was down there. King Louis the 13th.
13 and 14.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Yeah, both kings.
Many of them.
Wow.
The mummy brown and the marvelous glaze.
There's the restroom. I think if you look up the Sean Stone Alex Jones interview, you might find.
We'll be right back. The skull of Mary Magdalene. Have you seen that at the Basilica in France?
And Saint Baume?
No, I think it's.
Well, that's where she was. She died, right? They have a sanctuary devoted to her in Saint Baume. It's a cave. It's really cool.
Right. So there's no. This is somewhere else. Steve, show the skull of Mary Magdalene. It's like looks like it's in this space helmet, dude. It's wild looking.
Oh shit. I have that. There you go.
So right there, yeah, relics of Mary Magdalene. So this is allegedly the actual skull of Mary Magdalene.
In Saint-Baume.
Oh, is that where it is? Okay.
Saint.
So this guy, this French guy, Philippe Charlier, who is the coroner, he's been trying to get them to give him permission to examine the skull and test it to see if it was really her.
Why not?
And they won't let him.
They don't want it to prove to be Hitler's skull.
They don't want it. They want it exactly.
It ends up being Hitler's skull.
Can you imagine?
Oh
my God, dude.
You know, because apparently, remember the skull that the Russians had that they said was Hitler? They remember that they got possession of the body?
Yeah. So he was a part of that.
What it was?
Charlier, this guy I'm telling you about. So he actually did an examination of not the skull, but the teeth of the jaw, part of the jawbone of Hitler.
Which one?
I don't know.
Because the one the Russians had was a woman.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it was like, remember, like most likely Hitler escaped the bunker.
Right.
And that's even come out recently, I thought. Was it which batch of files was it? Epstein, CIA, some files was talking about this, that like Hitler escaped Germany after, during the war, and they faked his suicide.
This was in some of those declassified files?
Yeah, then just come out.
I vaguely remember something like this, but
just information overload.
Yeah. See what you can find.
It's too many. It's too much to keep track of what's real, what's hallucination, what's AI hallucinating.
Well, I mean, what are the chances that all his top generals made it out alive, but he was the one that was noble enough to go down with the ship?
Oh yeah, exactly. No. Bormann was a major one. That was his like chief secretary, and he was. Again, the like you said, the rat lions got a lot of them out. So why wouldn't he have been the first to basically say, get me out of here?
Yeah, right. And he probably went to Argentina. That's how the story goes, right?
Yeah. That's one of the destinations.
Mm-hmm. Man, I'm so pissed we can't find this audio recording of this demon calling you. That would have been great. When does the documentary come out?
It'll be out in like a few weeks here.
A few weeks.
So
are you gonna put it on YouTube?
Yeah, I should get it to you guys. I should get you guys the documentary. You can play a clip from it or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I would love to see it. Yeah, but the story of all that, the history of all that, and of how Hitler's life ended. It's very, very interesting. The story doesn't seem to make sense with the official narrative. Because like when Felipe, this corner I'm telling you about, when he was getting permission by the KGB or the FSB or whatever it was to go get access to it, it was like lots of interrogations these guys had to go through to get it, and interviews they had to go through to get access to their archives where they had the Hitler skull.
So where's
the jawbone? Yeah,
I mean that's where it says that the DNA test showed that it was a woman's skull. But what are the new files that are out about Hitler escaping to South America?
Yeah, there was new government declassification, new declassified files by the government that alluded to Hitler escaping or Hitler surviving. So you would type in something like declassified files, Hitler escape. Type that into your AI and see what it will come up with. It should have something.
Your AI should know something about that. I mean, I use AI a lot. I think it's people are funny because they're like, well, AI makes mistakes. I'm like, yeah, you're not supposed to treat it like it's God. You're just supposed to use it, as something that can do really rapid research and give you some feedback. It's a perspective,
right?
I think that's the key. You have to keep in mind, like, it's a perspective. It is not meant to be infallible.
Well, I mean, whenever people try to like condense and give you like one trough to get all your information, you should always be skeptical of it. Jerusalem Post, the hunt for Hitler, CIA agent. Okay, no, this is not it. This is anything about declassified files here?
Just probably the evidence.
Classified. Yes.
Yeah, Millet authorized the declassification of documents.
Okay, who is this guy? Javier Milei?
The president of Argentina.
Oh, I see. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I do remember this. Authorized declassification of these documents after the meeting with The Simon Wiesenthal Center officials say February. The Daily Mail also cited a former UN war crimes investigator who is more cautious about claims of Nazis aiming to build a Fourth Reich in Argentina, where Peter Thiel is now building his giant compound. Nothing to see here.
It's curious. It's all curious.
It is.
It's like, well, you know, a lot of things that we can only speculate about, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like to work more from the evidence and you know, build from that, you know, or lived experience.
Right. Yeah, definitely, man. Well, dude, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah.
This has been super fun.
It's been a ride. I mean, we've gone from JFK to the paranormal.
Yeah, we're all over the
secret
place.
Space program to the occult. Seems pretty
There's
fitting.
nothing we haven't covered.
It seems pretty fitting.
Yeah, the only thing we haven't covered is psychedelics.
Well, which ones?
You tell me.
I mean, I'm more of an ayahuasca. I've done Iboga. Iboga was pretty Iboga was a little bit stronger than ayahuasca, but not not dissimilar. The only thing I could say with Iboga was the machine elves showed up on that one.
Oh yeah,
and I didn't get the machine. I usually get the Elohim with ayahuasca.
You get the Elohim on ayahuasca?
Yeah.
Good Lord. I'm too scared to try ayahuasca. I'm terrified to be stuck in that state for that long.
Well, you don't have to be. I mean, you can just take one glassful will only take you so far if, you know, you don't choose to continue and drink like 2 cups or 3 cups. It'll only take you for, you know, maybe like a couple hours, and it may not take you that deep either. You know, the first dose may not take you all the way.
Right.
So you can just feel like how your body's responding, and if you're ready to go deeper,
right,
then you drink more. You know, but it's not like a mushroom where you eat.
Have you ever done
mushroom.
regular DMT?
Yeah, I smoked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just had a dude in the other day who was the patient 0 for this intravenous DMT study where they put you on an IV of DMT for like a couple hours and they like interview you and interrogate you the whole time, and because they're trying to like figure out what's actually going on. That's
cool.
Map the realm, figure out if there's anything there, figure out what it really is. Pretty interesting.
I think it's interesting because, you know, you, like I said, what I see it as, you can communicate with, you know, whatever entities or your higher self, however you want to like perceive it. You can ask questions and with intention. So if someone is kind of doing it more in a clinical state, they can ask questions that, you know, because the nature of consciousness is such that, you know, as I believe we're co-creating their reality, right? And so as soon as someone else is entering your sphere of consciousness and asking you to like talk to these beings, now you're directly talking to these beings through that person. You're part of the experience. You've altered.
Yeah.
You've altered the you've altered the experience.
Yes.
By being present.
Right.
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 Even just as an observer, let alone when you're asking questions.
Right.
And yeah, so again, like where our consciousness is underlying, like that's all that we can say exists is my consciousness is all that I can say I know, right? I can never know your consciousness. I can only know you through the experience of my consciousness, through the filter of my consciousness. And so like we're just kind of swimming in this.
We know it's there, but we don't know what it is or what it comes from. You know, it's like a mystery. It's just like the mystery. It's just like all the biggest mysteries. You know, is there a God? Who built the pyramids? And what the hell is consciousness? What happens after we die?
Well, I think, you know, the Egyptians would have said you're building your life, directing it towards the afterlife. And that's sort of the Christian mystery too. It's like, you know, we're directing ourselves through our work and our thoughts, our beliefs, our life. We're directing it towards the afterlife. Right. That's very Egyptian. The Egyptians were all about that, like preparation for the hereafter. And then, you know, I think the idea is that through remaining conscious through the death experience, the intention is to like project your consciousness into your next incarnation with intention, where you want to be, what you want to experience next.
Right. Well, it is interesting that, you know, people that experience when you do experience these kind of like extremely psychedelic drugs like DMT or ayahuasca, it does seem like very similar to what people describe when they have near-death experiences, you know?
Yeah. Well,
So it's like, what is that?
the fact that like consciousness is not like not the brain creating consciousness, but consciousness exists and we tune into it.
Like we're an antenna?
Yeah. Yeah. And we're able to
I think that makes
experience
sense.
more by like parts of the brain being shut down. That's why the drugs allow us to then like open up
Yeah.
more. But it's be careful, like, you know, the nature of drugs. Like I like the plant medicines more, but with an intentional setting, you know, people can get lost in the realms because again, like you talk about like demons and like the lower astral planes or whatnot, the realms where these entities exist that can oftentimes like attach and feed on you and feed on, you know, ego essentially, right? So it's like the ego of, you know, cocaine or something, you know, people feeling like they're Superman.
Yeah.
Right.
Hunter Thompson.
And, yeah, I mean, but so many people, I think, you know, went down that hole of, you know, I've seen it. I don't touch it, but like a lot of people I've seen with cocaine, it's like it's part of why my dad had to kick cocaine because he was like, you know, you just everything that you do, you think is great. If you're writing a script, like you think it's fantastic, you've lost all balance.
How come all the greatest writers were on cocaine?
Who?
Hunter Thompson, for one.
I don't know if he's the greatest writer, but okay.
He's one of the not the greatest, but he was very good.
Prolific.
Who was the guy who wrote Cujo? Why am I blanking on his name?
Stephen King. Yeah.
Stephen King was fucking going crazy on cocaine and alcohol when he was writing some of his best stuff. Cujo, like famously, he was like on coke the whole time.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, look, it's an upper, you know, so
There's
it gives you energy.
Yeah.
But
Right, but I mean, there's something else there though, I feel like. Maybe not just cocaine.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just drugs. Maybe there's something to do with drugs and creativity that seem to go hand in hand.
no, I mean, look, they're portals, right? So it's like you're opening, you know, if you're inhibiting some parts of your brain that's like putting restrictions on you or allowing your imagination to roam more, right? You're allowing yourself to just to experience more, to take more in, to be more, you know, to connect, potentially more alive. There is something to that. It just, I think also with cocaine, it's like I said, people can really, they buy their own bullshit too much. It's like they think, you know, and so yeah, maybe you have some success, but you can really be in the ego.
Yeah.
From what I see.
Well, I think that's probably even psychedelics to an extent, right? Like,
Can be.
It seems like I've heard a lot of people, researchers, people a lot smarter than me about this stuff, explain how they believe that what psychedelics do is they manifest what's already there in the psyche, and they sort of like reinforced ideals or beliefs, maybe subconscious, that you're not aware of.
Sure.
And they bubble them up to the surface, which is why, you know, you get this sort of like a lot of people in the psychedelic space sort of like turn into door knockers. They become evangelists for it, right? And they think that they have all the answers, right? And it's very strange. And there was this famous study, which I've talked about ad nauseum on this show, so I'm sorry. But there was this John Hopkins study with religious professionals. Have you heard of that? Where they took religious leaders from Judaism, Christianity, I think Hindu and Islam, and they gave them all psilocybin, and they documented what their experience was. And all of their experiences were basically mapped by their religious belief and their religious background.
Yeah.
So like what they saw and all that kind of stuff.
See, it's one of those things where it's like chicken or egg, though, because I believe like the soul incarnates into that path for a reason, for like a learning experience. So, you know, is that person inventing the reality based on their understanding of theology, or have they been born into that theology to understand it?
Like born into a belief?
Yes. Yes. You've chosen a certain culture, a certain belief system to explore it as a soul.
Yeah, I guess that's possible.
You see? So it's something that we can't really know, but we can feel into. Like, you know, you have to live something. How do you say? Like, you have to trust that you've chosen something for a reason to grow in a, you know, to grow in a certain path, to grow in a certain direction.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
In a certain whatever, in a certain tradition. And it can be a country, a culture, language, all these things, you know. But I believe like the co-creative experience is like, yeah, we've chosen to walk this path.
Very interesting. Well, thanks again, man. This has been fun. I need to go try some ayahuasca on that note.
Let's do it. For sure.
Tell people where they can find your stuff, your YouTube, your documentaries, your books, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I just keep it simple. SeanStone.info, my website.
Okay.
I think that's like an easy hub for people to go and just link from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic, dude. Well, thank you for doing this, man. We should do it again sometime.
That's great. My pleasure.
All right. Good night, everybody.